Ladies and gentlemen, we have begun. This is game number 1 in a best-of-9 series between Tabben and LordRaphael for our weekly Escape TV show matches. There is $100 on the line for these players. Winners takes all. There is also $40 up for grabs for the stream, as I mentioned, if you win the betting. More on that. I've said all about it anyway, but let's get into this game. Spawning in the top of the map in the color blue, we do have LordRaphael back from his break, so to speak, his first competitive appearance since the Autumn Championships 2018, and his opponent, Tabben, in the south of the map from Sweden. LordRaphael from Germany, but Tabben also playing as the Germans' very, very strong player here. Both of them very strong, and certainly Tabben on form at the moment has been playing a lot. But both players we can see going straight towards the middle of the map here, as we often see on Kamchatka. Is it going to be one go each? They're quite farly spread. Yeah, one go each, and quickly going to crack shot that 50 wood treasure there as well. But we always see players go to the middle on Kamchatka. We say this every game because there's usually big treasures like this 90 wood. We saw 50 wood there, and certainly the goats. They spawn in 2x2s, whereas everywhere else on the map you only have one lone single goat there. But looks like from the get-go, LordRaphael, Maito, he's going to build a trading post here, and his opponent not going to be doing that. So one deviation already in this game.
Yeah, and this trading post is a little bit more expensive than normal too, because it wasn't a wood start. So he had to chop a full 200 wood to get this TP down and to get the house down that he'll have to place shortly. And it's also a very exposed trading post, and yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out, because it's also going to potentially delay his age up a little bit, so it might be a little bit difficult to defend. But if he does manage to defend it, it's going to give him a pretty big advantage in like early and mid-colonial, when his shipment progression will be a lot stronger.
Yeah, Germans, a trading post is certainly what they want. Going to make them very strong, you know. Going to have access to those powerful Fortress Age shipment. That's usually where Germany wants to go. But you're absolutely right. It is going to delay his age up, and we can already see a difference in the food count, right? Tabben on 350 food, and LordRaphael on 100. And in Age of Empires 3, the age up time, in fact, any RTS game, it's very, very important, because once you get up that 400 wood from the politician and your first shipment, all these things are going to be delayed if you're sort of late to the next age. But LordRaphael, he's doing quite well, given that he did spend all this time to build a trading post. I suppose he went to the middle and grabbed the goats and contested the treasures and stuff like that before laying it down, which is probably why he built it in the middle of the map, in case Tabben went for that 90 wood treasure that was next to the trading post there. But I'm saying he's doing quite well, because he's got 5 goats despite spending all that time building the trading post. And if we take a look at the treasures as well, arguably LordRaphael in the lead there. He's got, 90 woods, a really solid treasure.
And you can see him splitting up the goats now too. This might have been part of the plan, to just use the goats to mitigate the fact that he has to gather that extra wood in the early game. And it is going to leave Tabben with some goats left over that will be more useful later in the game, but it'll definitely give Raphael sort of an early advantage when those shipments start to pay off. He is still going to be aging a little bit slower, though. He is going to have a little bit of idle time here. So he'll be a little bit slower than Tabben, but not a super big deal.
Yeah. Tabben now up 15%, 20% of the way aged, starting to bring his herds in. Villager going to shoot them towards his town, and now switching all of his villagers, except those herders, over to wood here. And I expect to see a trading post from Tabben during transition. Raphael is now up, a little bit delayed, as you mentioned, and we'll see how that sort of affects the course of the game. But those are the deviations here. We'll see how an early trading post affects this matchup. But let's switch on over to shipment sent. 2 settler wagons from each player, and both going to be going up with the Quartermaster. Raphael now adding in that market during transition, and likewise from Tabben as well. Now, the German mirror. There's a couple of options, right, Maito? Do you think we're going to see anything colonial? Do you think that Tabben may have noticed that early trading post and thought, okay.
Well, yeah. Well, he definitely saw it. I saw him scout it just a moment ago. So he's aware that it's there, and he knows that Raphael had to chop a lot of wood to get that down very early. But yeah, colonial is definitely on the cards. German mirrors are sort of one of those weird mirrors where you can do pretty much anything and potentially win, whereas a lot of other mirrors are a lot more static, whereas, you know, you kind of have to go with for maybe 1 or 2 different strategies, and that's all you can do. So yeah, pretty much anything is on the cards. Looks like for the moment, though, both players going with very similar builds. Both starting with gold, stable going down for Tabben. No military building for Raphael yet, as he is not yet H2, but we'll see one shortly, no doubt.
Yeah, 400 wood now on the floor there. Villagers coming over to start gathering that up. And we'll see what building he elects to go with in the early portion. Stable going to come out of Lord Raphael as well. But Tabben's cavalry will be coming out first. But yes, a treasure contention. Okay, Lord Raphael, he's going for 150 coin. Looks like he's...
Raphael.
Did it reset? Oh, dear.
Yeah, I think somewhat actually might be good for him that it reset. Because he might be able to deny... Okay, no. So it is going to go over to Tabben now. Unfortunately for Raphael, it resetting there almost meant that maybe Tabben couldn't go for it before Ulans could arrive or something, but no, it does go over to Tabben, sadly, for Raphael.
Yeah, he picks up the 150 coin there. Very low HP Explorer, but at least it's alive, right?
Yeah, for the moment at least.
Yeah, very low HP.
Looks like Raphael also decided to go with a stable, and this is just a very safe opening in this matchup. It's very versatile. Like, you can age up, you can stay age 2, you can sort of transition into like Doppelsoldners and stuff if you need to, and you still have a lot of like mobility and rating pressure on the map regardless of what unit composition or age you end up having to be in.
Here we go. 7. Looks like Tabben going to keep his 2 Ulans that he got for free off the shipment, and the 5 here, and that means he's going to have a little bit of an advantage in this fight. But there is town center fire, and looks like the settler wagon's going to get involved for a little bit of extra DPS. And Lord Raphael coming out decisively ahead there. I think. Oh, there's an extra. Did he have that 700 wood? The extra 2 Ulans from the 700 wood. Is that what swung the fight?
He did have an equal number of Ulans there because of that 700 wood shipment, but it was mostly the town center fire, I think, that swayed the fight, and the villager punching a little bit.
Yeah,
it was very, very risky fight to take there for Tabben, and that's going to hurt him a lot. He's not going to be able to be aggressive. He's not going to be able to potentially threaten this trading post. Raphael can do a pretty big counter push here if he wants to with this next batch of Ulans, which he is doing for the moment. And he'll be able to age up pretty safely behind this, even if he takes a like slightly suboptimal trade with these Ulans, he's going to be ahead regardless.
Yeah, just because he's got more of them and he can just sort of slam them in there. Even if it doesn't go great, he'll definitely come out ahead. Just going to quickly take that 40 XP treasure, but you're right. Tabben now down in the count. Oh, he's not going to go in there. I thought, okay, but a batch of Ulans does pop out. He has got his town center nearby. He can call Minutemen, something like that. Is going to take off an Ulan for free there. And now matching Lord Raphael's Ulan count. I think he's okay. Let's see what Raphael intends to do, because, he's switching to Doppelsodners, and he's got an extra, the barracks down as well. So he's going to perhaps commit a little bit longer to the colonial age and take advantage of the fact that he got, sort of a little bit ahead in terms of the military there, which could be troublesome. Doppelsodner is an incredibly powerful unit, certainly against Ulans.
Yeah, and especially if Tabben decides to go for some sort of age up here or something, and he doesn't have a barracks yet either. He decided to forgo that until he starts aging, it looks like. So this could be a very scary push for sure. And Tabben here, he sees that he has the military advantage, but he doesn't know about the Doppelsoldners yet. He could just think that maybe Raphael is aging.
Yeah.
He might get baited into taking a fight here, although it is kind of questionable that Raphael's here, so maybe that's tipping him off. Gonna bring the villager back, and yeah, he's gonna take a fight now, but
he's probably thinking, great, I can take this fight. He's aging because he hasn't got many Ulans. Oh no, there's Doppelsodners, get back! Looks like, though, he's not been snared into a fight with the Dops here, calling the Minutemen. Looks like the Dops actually are going to find themselves in combat, trying to get back here. Going to use the town center fire and Minutemen to deal damage to the Doppelsodners. They are doing a lot of damage to these Ulans. Now gotten the surround on the Minutemen. They're not going to last long. Looks like the cavalry coming back in. This is a tough fight. He cannot really fight this whilst the Doppelsodner's in there, so frantically trying to focus them down with whatever he can, but they are really swinging the numbers. They really do a lot of damage to cavalry, and now Lord Raphael in an absolutely wonderful position. He has lots of units in here, and Tabben being forced into his base, and gonna lose a settler wagon here by the looks of it as well, so Tabben not gonna be feeling great about this. Probably wasn't anticipating the Doppelsodners, but the last of them looks like they are gonna go down. Tabben, he doesn't have anything in the barrack, stable. This is not looking ideal.
Yeah, and behind this, he's not able to age. There's 8 crossbows coming across the map for Raphael. He doesn't have a barracks yet, so he can't invest any of that. He doesn't even have any units in queue right now because he knows that Ulans aren't going to be super useful in this situation. So he's just kind of sitting in his town center, not really doing much with his resources at the moment. And
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like this is potentially going to go the way of Raphael pretty soon here.
There's a
He
lot of
might
stuff
have.
in that back.
I mean,
In
Tabben
that
must
town
have a
center.
unit shipment on the way right now. I imagine it'll be 3 Doppelsoldners popping out on those crossbows. They're maybe a little bit out of position at the moment, and this will give him a little bit of a reprieve as he manages to clean up the rest of the army here. But Raphael is going to start aging behind this, and he's going to be totally comfortable with this situation right here.
Yeah, looks like Lord Raphael, he's gone in, he's done the damage he wants, he killed a house there, he kept all of the villagers, right? There was 23 population in that town center, and remember the settler wagons are actually worth 2 villages each, so it's probably more than that, and they were all, not gathering any resources, and Raphael, behind that, as you're saying, he's now halfway up to the Fortress Age using the Exiled Prince Politician, and he's going to be in a solid spot, but Tabben, he did manage to repel it, with that 3 Doppelsodner shipment that does also give you 2 Ullans as well because of the German bonus. That did really, really well against the crossbows and sort of evened it out. He's now sort of back to work, but he has lost a bunch of gather time, but he's not out of the game just yet. He's just, I think Lord Raphael coming out ahead in the Age 2 gameplay just there. But now moving into the Age 3 portion of the game, certainly for Lord Raphael. But Tabben, whilst he's got sort of a military advantage before, Lord Raphael is going to be sending shipments and training units. It's not going to be anything here for a little while because it takes a while for a shipment to come. He has got this small window to come in here and sort of do a bit of damage like he was doing like he had done to him. So he can come in here, bell up the villagers, and he's going to do that. But oh my goodness, I missed this enormous raid. And Tabben, he knows he's behind and he cannot keep up with the villagers he just lost there. Thank you for the flare. God, let's go see that on the graph. That was absolutely brutal there.
He lost 4 or 5 vills there, I think.
Yeah, and if we take a look at all resources gathered, you can see that big idle period, right? And that's going to be, about 12,200, and here it's on about 10,000. So there's sort of like 1.5 thousand resources, I think, difference there, which is, when you translate it into units trained, it's going to be a big difference. And losing the villagers there, it's going to be hard to keep up, and going to call game number 1 a quick early victory from Lord Raphael, staying colonial rather than going up to the Fortress Age, and with those Doppelsodners looking like he caught Tabben a little bit by surprise.
Yeah, for sure. And this is kind of just like a slow spiral into defeat, that game, just because Tabben took that really poor fight at the beginning and then sent 700 wood, but didn't actually use any of that 700 wood. He was sitting on 400 wood for almost the entire game, when he could have definitely spent it on a barracks and stuff like that, and actually had the potential to train defensive Doppelsoldners against that timing and stuff. So overall, just Raphael sort of having a better understanding of the matchup and punishing Tabben's mistakes really well, despite having been absent for the last several months.
Yeah, I guess, it's like riding a bike. You sort of don't forget, perhaps. But that was game number 1, and you can see what happened. That engagement where Lord Raphael came into the base with the Doppelsodners, and Tabben sort of had to end up calling Minutemen and take the fight, and the Doppelsodners really had a big swing. And from there, he did catch up with the shipment there in the town center fire, doing some damage. But we know what happened after that. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the civilization selection screen. You can see here that on Kamchatka, it was a German mirror, and Lord Raphael was victorious. Up next will be Baja, California. Lord Raphael will not be able to play Germany on Baja, California, or indeed any other map. Because he has now won with Germany, it is disabled for the rest of the series. However, Tabben, he can play any civilization he likes. And in fact, Tabben will be receiving what we call the matchup advantage here, since Lord Raphael, since he won, has to pick his next civilization first, and then afterwards Tabben will select his civilization.
And to be fair to Tabben, German mirrors are kind of one of those explosive matchups because all of your units are just such high DPS that if you do take a slightly unfavorable engagement, it snowballs really, really hard. And once you start losing the fight, you start losing it even harder and harder, even more so than you would with a lot of other civilizations that sort of have like a little bit tankier units than the Ulan is, for example. So
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. The fact that the Ulan has so few hit points and such high damage really does make it this explosive unit. I think that's that's absolutely the perfect way to describe the Ulan, I think, because, you know, you lose a couple of them by mistake and it's such a big deal because it's so much more punishing since they have such lower hit points than usual Cav. But Lord Raphael coming out ahead in the German mirror. Let's go back into the lobby. It looks like Lord Raphael has selected his next civilization, picking the Sioux. Tabben will now counterpick, so to speak. He will get his selection afterwards, which gives him the advantage. The betting will resume shortly. You'll each be credited 100 denarii when the next match begins, and you will have 3 minutes to place your bets on who you think will win the series. At the end of the stream, whoever has the most points will win a Steam game of their choice up to the value of $40. But it looks like Tabben is asking Lord Raphael, have you locked the Sioux? The Sioux has been locked. Lord Raphael will not change his civilization now. Tabben, let's see what he goes for. Any thoughts on this, Maito?
I feel like Sioux makes a decent amount of sense on this map. There's a couple things that I'm not quite certain about it, but for the most part on Baja California, you sort of have to leave your base a little bit earlier than on some maps, which means that Sioux, with their extremely mobile army, thanks to that Sioux war chief, can sort of punish your villagers and army really hard if you have to leave your base that early into the game. So it kind of makes sense in that regard. On the other hand, it is really easy to wall off a lot of these raiding paths on this map, or along the mountains there near the native posts and stuff like that. And there's also water on this map, and Sioux is not exactly known for their water prowess. So Tabben has a couple of options here that could potentially give him a favorable matchup here. Water being one of them. And okay, going to pick Japan. And this is sort of a classic sort of counter to Sioux, just because Sioux doesn't really scale very well into the later stages of the game, and they rely on the mobility of that army to really do damage to their opponent. And Japan, of course, doesn't have to leave their base for hunts or anything like that. They just sit in their base at the cherry orchards, and they can turtle a lot longer than a lot of other civs can.
Yeah, let's get into this game. But before we do so, an anonymous donor has given 5 gift subscriptions in the chat. So congratulations, everyone, if you were selected to be a subscriber. Thank you very much for that. But yes, let's begin game number 2 on Baja, California. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump right into this. This will be game number 2 in a best of 9 series between Lord Raphael and Tabben. Let's spawning in the north of the map. In the color blue, we do indeed have Lord Raphael playing. I don't even know if he's in the north of the map. I'm sort of making it up. On the left-hand side of the map, in the color blue, we do have Lord Raphael. There he is. He will be playing as the Sioux. Let's take a look at the treasures surrounding his base and the crates on the floor. They're going to be a coin start, and has 20 coin in the back of his base, and might find 80 wood and indeed 40 XP just in front there as well. The 80 wood certainly a lot more interesting, but really it's the Sioux. They can go absolutely anywhere. This guy has a tremendous speed, and I'm sure we'll see him zooming across the map. I meant to do this last game, but let's quickly do this so that we can move around. Oh yes, that's right, silky smooth indeed. The scroll speed is now a lot better, but Tabben spawning with gold, not ideal for Japan. They'd rather have the wood for the consulate, so I think actually the Sioux player will be pleased with this start, simply because although he can't use the coin himself, he'll know that Japan will also get coin, which is sort of not ideal, and he's going to leave that on the floor there, and it looks like we're going to see a consulate coming down right away from Tabben, but right away across the map.
Yeah, look at this scouting pattern from Raphael, just immediately looking for the explorers, wants to find out where exactly they are on the map. I don't know if he spotted them going for that treasure earlier, so I'm not sure that he knows they're nearby, but finds this 80 wood, going to start it up. And Tabben gets the chance to sort of contest this, which is something you don't normally get to do against Sioux. But he could be good for Japan. Yeah, so he's going to pick that up. That's going to really help him with this consulate start that he's doing, able to take villagers off of wood.
And the divine strike on that Guardian there. So, LordRaphael, yeah, I don't think he saw those explorers. You know, they're going to be expecting them to be out on the map building shrines or heading towards locations and scouting and things like that. But actually, they were still sort of close by and perhaps didn't see them, and has just given Tabben a bit of wood. That's going to give him a little bit of a confidence boost, I expect, having lost the previous game there. But right away, Tabben going to be researching the Portuguese consular allies, and will receive cheaper buildings, including his Age Up Wonders, because of that there. So, yes, as you said, 80 wood going to be really valuable, and now slamming down a couple of shrines once that has been built. Pardon me, a shrine now that has come in.
Well, looks like it is actually going to be 2 shrines. He's chopped a little bit of extra wood for that second shrine, it looks like, and it's going to be going down in the middle of the map there, sort of give him a little bit of line of sight over this middle sort of choke point. In case Raphael chooses to go for trading posts or sends any units through there, or maybe builds a forward base, you'll know in advance.
Oh, bit of a treasure contention coming in. By the way, thank you, Riot Coke, for gifting Hazza a subscription. Hazza, I expect to see AoE wills being spammed absolutely everywhere now on your Twitch stream, and yes, that is the case, but gonna be giving that up right away. Japan, he doesn't want to be dealing with the Sioux Explorer there, is gonna get on out of there, but 60 wood up for contention. But what LordRaphael doesn't know is that there's a second monk nearby. Going to try and convert the Guardian there so that he can get it, but can he go in again for the second time and get the wood treasure? Looks like no, he's the Sioux Explorer going to get that, but a little consolation prize does kill the Cougar, and now this Explorer, the War Chief, is actually quite low on health.
Yeah, he is. Not a super big deal, though. It's not like Japan can really punish that. Of course, you just run away from any danger, right?
That's true, and you've got the poof ability as well, don't you?
Exactly.
So it's much easier to escape.
Well,
escape! That's us! Go on.
I was mostly talking about the Sioux Explorer can escape despite having low HP.
Oh, yeah, but that's fair. He's very fast.
It does mean, though, that he's going to have to put a hold on treasuring probably for the remainder of this Age 1, which is not a super big deal for him either, I think, just because Sioux can scout the map so quickly and can react to their opponents so quickly if they do start another treasure that he'll be able to just contest anything that Japan tries to go for without too much trouble, most likely.
Yeah, but both players now up to the next stage. Tabben, as expected, going up with the Teshogu Shrine there. Lots of animals in the back, so a really nice shrine, and it's going to be quite safe behind his base. He's going to lay that down, get that shrine bonus going. His opponent, the Sioux, will be aging up with the Chief, and now all villagers switching over to wood, and starting with just the one TP in base for the extra economic bonus that he grants. But let's switch on over to shipment sent. Not going to be a heavenly Kami game. Baja, California, a water map, and indeed lots of room to ship 3 fishing boats here, which is a bit like shipping 3 villagers. They have arrived, going to give him that economic boost. But now, using that wood that he's gathering in transition to lay down shrines, and actually, Maito is going to construct a little bit of a wall, deleting the pillars. You don't need those, just spending extra wood on things you don't need, but is, by the looks of it, going to turtle up, build a shell, so to speak, and is going to defend himself against the Sioux.
Yep, and this is sort of like a classic way to counter Sioux, I guess. Not quite as good on ESOC patch, where walls are quite a bit weaker. But Sioux doesn't really have a lot of siege damage, and they don't really have a lot of ways to sort of like slow siege, like cannons and stuff like that, like some other civs do. So they have a little bit of trouble dealing with walls than other civs, although they do have access to that siege dance, although it's very expensive to try and do that in the early stages of the Fortress Age. And yeah, it's just going to buy Japan a lot of time to sort of start booming. And yeah, I don't know if he's going... Let me just take a look at his deck real quick. He has some water cards in it. So that's definitely an option he has available to him, maybe. You know, just by way of not sending Heavenly Kami means he could be thinking of going water at least.
Yeah, 2 Funes and 2 attacker boons in there as well, so it is geared up for the water play, so to speak, can contest the water. But looks like LordRaphael sent 3 forward villagers here, and with that 400 wood he got from the Chief, he's going to lay down, by the looks of it, certainly a war hut forward in the middle of the map, but indeed as well some teepees, not trading posts, teepees. Yes, that's what they're called, actual teepees. And he's got in his market and clearly hunting dogs as well. But LordRaphael, he's taken quite a lot of damage on that war hut there. The Tabben war chief, monk, the explorer there from the Japanese, found the construction and decided to start sieging it, get that ×4 damage whilst it's in construction there. LordRaphael walling like a big pro. Oh dear. He's, I think, not pleased to see the wall. But Tabben, yeah, look at this.
Yeah, this is Raphael is known for really disliking this playstyle, and it's actually the playstyle used by Kinesi, a player who's sort of famous for doing wall turtle type of strats, and he's actually the one who knocked Raphael out of the most recent tournament that Raphael played in. So Tabben's sort of taking a page out of Kinesi's book here, and yeah, we'll see how effective it is. I mean, Raphael obviously isn't happy to see it, so...
Yeah, I really like this, and using some of that natural land to defend it. There are holes in his base, but filling in holes is not as important in Age 3 as it is in Age 2. Just having, making it difficult for units to rush into your base, and you can have units defending certain, any kind of wall is better than no kind of wall. But Japan, they gather from the cherry orchards, right? They don't really need to be out on the map. Certainly, they do build the shrines next to the hunts, and as you can see, LordRaphael doing a very good job here of sieging them down. It looks like he trained some war clubs, which are essentially pikemen, very high siege, and just going to tear through these shrines whilst he sort of masses up, or perhaps doesn't mass up, actually. He's not trained too many units here. Perhaps actually going to intend to go up to the fortress age, since 700 coin. Let's flick on over to units in queue and see if there is really anything there. No, okay, he is actually making units. He's going to be training from a corral, which I'm not sure where the stable is positioned, but certainly axe riders are in queue, just behind the war hut here. But that is the case. Using the war clubs to kill the shrines, and Japan, nice and safe. They don't have to leave their base, going to stay here, gather up the cherries, and sitting behind this turtley wall.
Yeah, and this build from Raphael is also a little bit all in. He hasn't sent 5 villagers yet, and he just sent 4 axe riders. So he's definitely gearing up for some sort of timing here. He's probably expecting Tabben to probably over-invest into economy, or else to try and age up. And then he will likely try to come in when he suspects that is happening and try to punish that. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't really have any good ways to scout into the space, though. Doesn't really have any good ways to check if Tabben is actually on water and stuff like that. So this is a little bit of a risk from him. However, it looks like it's actually Tabben who's going to want to try and push out.
Yeah, he's coming out now. He's seen that LordRaphael hasn't done anything at all to him, basically.
Axe riders were hidden, though, until just now.
Yeah, now coming out, and he's going to suddenly think, oh dear, this is not what I should have done. Melee going in there with the musketeers to try and scare away those axe riders. But, Tabben, he didn't see any units.
Really good micro from Raphael, wow. Pulling the axe riders back that were being meleeed by the Ashigaru there. Pulling the Ashigaru forward and not sort of preventing them from doing any real damage. And yeah, that was a really, really risky play from Tabben there. He invested so much into these walls early on, and he's just been doing nothing but economy, and still decides to try and push out, or at least try to poke a little bit to see what Raphael's up to, but it just wasn't really worth it, and he gets punished for it really hard as a result of it.
Yeah, not ideal, right? Because I suppose he saw that really nothing was sort of happening. His opponent wasn't pushing him. Probably expected some sort of age up, right? But not the case. Axe Rider's sort of hidden, comes out a bit, to try and do some damage, try and capitalize on that. And now the Sioux, he's lost his army out there, not under the town center safety, where he can have units and pops and Minutemen and all sorts of things. And there are a lot of Sioux units here. War Clubs streaming in, and the Yumi Archer, they're about to lose their front line, and these Axe Riders going to find themselves on top of the Yumi, and this could well be a very quick game number 2 as well.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. There is a stable up now. Doesn't have any units in queue. He doesn't really have the resources to train a full batch or anything like that. Thankfully, this wall will enable these Yumi archers to do a little bit of damage to the army here, or at least force them to siege the wall instead of the barracks. And potentially trade them off for some other units. He's taking some shots from the Seton bows, though, that he really should try to avoid. He's got more range than them, so he could be kiting this a little bit more. Oh, enlist irregulars coming in now.
Yeah, enlist irregulars. Essentially, colonial militia shipment, giving the town center an exceptional ranged attack, improving it by 50%, I believe. So now on 135 range damage. This town center, potent. is the word I would use to describe this. Going to be doing a lot of damage to these units, and does enlist irregulars like Colonial Militia also provide extra Minutemen that he can send of some kind?
It does, yeah. But it costs quite a bit. He does actually, I think it's 200 for each of the batches. I could be wrong. It might be like 300 or something like that.
There it is.
Here it is. It looks like it was 300, and he will be popping that onto the Axe Riders and the Seton Bows. And it looks like he will be able to dissuade the pressure for the moment. Although, that being said, if some sentry's getting a little bit overeager, chasing, yeah, going to be taken down by the Axe Riders there. Another 2 going to be taken down by the infantry on the south side. So it buys him a little bit of time, but maybe not as much as he would have liked.
Yeah, now back to work.
Those sentries.
He's back to work, which is good. He can gather resources again. But the Sioux, they've still got a lot of units. You can see 22 military unit population to 4, and probably just gearing up to come right back in again and do some damage here. It is going to give him a little bit of time to wall up again, though. And with the town center fire, he's still in it. He's still got all his villagers, and the town center very strong against the Axe Riders.
Yeah, but it's worth noting too that, as we said earlier, Raphael hadn't sent 5 villagers until just now. So his economy, is not great. He's building a second trading post now, looking to send some war clubs up to the top side to take out that northern trading post from Tabben and maybe grab the stagecoach TPs. But until that happens, Tabben actually still has a pretty respectable economy now that his villagers are actually gathering, with most of the relevant market upgrades and everything. So Tabben actually maybe not in as bad a spot as we originally thought.
Yeah, if we look at it, right, 49 villages, and this is coming mostly from the shrines, which gather 0.3, whatever resource he decides to set them to. There are war clubs and units here starting to take them down, so this will go down. But yeah, he's got a really solid economy. Yes, a lot of it wasn't gathering, but also, as you said, LordRaphael, he hadn't sent that 5 villager shipment coming in very, very late. So Japan's still a solid eco, and now that there's not pressure in his base, we're starting to see a lot of units come out here, and could well be still in this game. And if you look at the score, he's actually considerably in the lead, but that's not always the best tell, so to speak. 2 600 coin shipments coming in a row from Tabben, and by the looks of it, using that to fund Naginata production, as well as the Ashigaru Musketeer here, now pushing out again, this time with faster moving units, and just going to walk straight past these war buildings, and of course the trading post as well, and looks like we're going to find a few Seton Bow just out in the open. The cavalry going to be really pleased, and this is a spectacular raid. Sadly, the Nagis not the best hand attack, but they're going to do quite well against the villagers, and they're going to kill a lot of them, and this is really, really good.
Yeah, this is looking really, really great for Tabben. He's got the military advantage now. He's got almost triple the units. Okay, now only double the units with that batch of Axe Riders coming out, and all these villagers going to be going down. Stagecoach comes in for Raphael to sort of mitigate the loss of these villagers, but I don't think it's going to be enough. He doesn't really have the economy to continue producing units after this fight here, and this second batch of Noggies is going to call GG.
What a game! The swings, man! Oh, wow. LordRaphael looked like he was dominating on top in the base here, doing a lot of damage, keeping all the villagers belled up. But Japan, very deceptive, right? They have lots of shrines around the map, gathering resources, and indeed the fishing ships. He sent 3 fishing ships and also used the consular at the Portuguese to get 3 more as well. So had, some unraidable, untouchable economy gathering all that time. And looks like Raphael, he did a lot of damage, but the walls held, the enlist irregulars shipment held, the Minutemen came out very clutch, and it looks like with the superior economy able to push back out on the map. I really like that decision. He raced straight past these military buildings. I think a lot of players would go, great, I've got these units, I'm going to take down your forward base, and going to feel really pleased about it. But actually, Tabben ignoring them and goes straight forward and is rewarded with a big Setan pick and a bunch of vills gathering out in the open, and not a lot of food here for LordRaphael, since this map you do have to end up a bit further outside of your base, and as a result, Tabben going to pick up game number 2.
Yeah, and I think he knew sort of that Raphael was pretty all in with that push and would sort of have to start investing into his economy and stuff like that if he wanted to continue playing in the game. So he knew that the military population wasn't going to be as large. He saw Raphael drop that second trading post. He saw him kill his northern TP, and he's thinking, all right, he's going to be investing a lot of resources into stagecoach instead of units. And maybe he even saw the villagers herding that pronghorn hunt near the stable there, and just made very good use of his units at a very optimal time.
Yeah, Kaiser Klein in the chat saying that Tabben was actually playing it very risky to walk past these military buildings here and just ignore them. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I'm interested to hear what you think.
About whether it was risky or not?
Yeah, it seems that Kaiser thinks that just ignoring the buildings was a risky play, but in this game it actually paid off really well, but may not have done on other occasions, perhaps.
I think it was kind of risky, but you kind of do have to like recognize that with Raphael dropping that second trading post, which is free information available on the score to like anybody who actually wants to look at it, including the players themselves. Um, he knows that Raphael's investing resources into economy and stuff like that. He knows that Raphael's army was very large very early in the game, so he kind of knew that it was kind of all in. And with him investing resources into economy afterwards, it's kind of hard to invest into military too. It was a little bit risky for sure. Like if he was wrong, he could have potentially lost all of those units and been sort of back in the same situation he was 2 minutes earlier. Um, but definitely paid off for him anyway. And I think it was an educated guess that sort of paid off in the end.
Yeah, and God, look at this graph, Maito. All resources gathered. Despite being in his base, you can see where he's belled up inside the TC and is having to, have no gatherers. But it's still actually ahead. Japan economy coming through there. Of course, LordRaphael didn't actually send his villager shipment. You can see his spike early on from sort of Tabben with the fishing boats and that kind of thing. But yeah, this, LordRaphael, he could have also had that spike. Instead, it comes much later in the game, and the push was perhaps a little bit all in. But that is game number 2. The score is now 1-1, and this is shaping up to be sort of quite a close series. But we will now head on out and see what the next game has in store for us. As you can see there, the next map will be New England. The players will not be able to play. LordRaphael, he cannot play Germany, as you can see, won that in game 1, and now on that second match, Tabben can no longer play Japan. But here, LordRaphael, he will be getting the Civ matchup advantage, so to speak. Tabben, he won the previous game, so must select first. Let's take a look at the lobby. Tabben has selected the Spanish, and it looks like we'll see if that's locked. Let's ask him there. But now...
Yeah, he said it's locked before you joined.
Oh, okay, that's all right then. And yes. LordRaphael going to play against the Spanish here. Spain seems like a popular pick on New England. The British coming out. Last week we saw Spain on New England. Garja playing them there. Got all the trading posts. Here... well, it's New England still. It's not. It's the same map, right? Lots of trading posts, and Spain really like that. They have that advanced trading post shipment, which could be really nice. But also, it's just, I think... Where am I going with this? I think Spain quite good on this map. LordRaphael going to pick the British, and this is one of LordRaphael's stronger civilizations, I think. He's quite good with British and going to be comfortable playing a Euro matchup here with them.
Yeah, definitely. It's also one of those civilizations that's considered to be somewhat of a counter to Spain. Spain has a little bit of trouble dealing with sort of British doing sort of a similar type of thing to Spain, where they just sort of musket, semi-FF, and then send Falcons, but they sort of just have more stuff than Spain does, and sort of a more optimal unit composition for that. But looks like both players BRB at the moment, likely having a bathroom break or something like that. But just want to talk about the civilizations on this map in particular a little bit. Spain, I think, makes a lot of sense, as you mentioned, because of the advanced trading post. But also just because there's a lot of pretty solid treasures pretty close to your base that the War Dog can help out with. You can age up with that tower that helps lock down one of the pawns, prevents some of that warship harassment that we sometimes see on this map. And also, Spain, they have the shipment bonus as their economic bonus, right? But a lot of their shipments aren't super strong. However, their warship shipments are just as strong as every other civilization. So in that regard, they sort of get the same water shipments as other civs, but they get them cheaper because they obviously have cheaper shipments. So Spain just makes a lot of sense on this map, yeah.
require less XP to send them, right? So you can just add in extra warship shipments. And I guess as Spain, I often find you sort of just run out of useful shipments to send, but having them, water shipments, as being a water map, and New England being so relevant because of the pond. I want to switch over to the Civ selection screen again. You will see on that there is a frigate floating in the pond, and this is done for a reason. New England, it tends to happen. This seems to happen. You end up, because this is a water map, you can ship boats, and they arrive in the main ocean. That's where they're supposed to arrive, but you can change the spawn point to really any body of water you like, no matter how big it is. And it turned out that I don't think the developers had this in mind, but you do tend to see these boats, and they actually have a really, really powerful attack against land units. They're supposed to be, not particularly mobile, because they can't chase you down on the land, because they can't obviously travel over the land. That's how physics works, how boats work, I suppose. But because of that pond, and there's so much land surrounding it, and it's sort of in the center of the map, it gives you this opportunity to control the trade route. And last week we had a really quite exceptional game, Gaja versus his opponent there, Soldier. That was quite a long one, so perhaps we will see something again. But the Civ selections are in Spain and British here. It looks like we are now launching into the game. Everyone, you will be able to place your bets in just a moment. The timer will appear on the screen. But yes.
Are you ready?
Are you ready? Taunt 11, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 3 in a best of 9 series between Tabben and LordRaphael. This is game number 3. The score is 1-1. Let's see who can pull ahead. We are now in the game. Let's take a look at the crate starts here. Spawning in the north of the map, in the color blue, we do indeed have Tabben. We'll switch over now to see what crates that they do have here. I suppose the saving recorded game takes a long time, but at least we are recording the games. We will have them available for anyone to watch them there, but I was a bit misled by the length of the recording. Okay, what's wrong? Looks like Maito's making some noises.
We have to restart this map, I think, just because Raphael's missing a mine on his side.
Okay. And we will, yes, we'll restart here. So don't bet yet. Don't bet yet. We'll hop on out and we'll get this game going again. But do need to check the maps for things like that. And it is very relevant on New England. New England actually a very low gold map. So the fact that one mine less is missing is something that we need to bear in mind. But we'll hop on out and get back into this in just a moment. But I suppose that's why you have 3 minutes to place your bets, so to speak. So we'll get on into this as quickly as we can so that you can don't have to run that timer down too much.
Yeah, gold 2 is something that I forgot about as well, but is something that both civs can sometimes get away with not using as much of. Spain, in particular, has that Spanish gold shipment, which gives them 400 gold with every shipment, can help them preserve those gold mines a little bit longer, whereas British, with the longbows, don't necessarily need to use gold for every single unit. So those are also 2 benefits for these civs on this map, for sure.
Sorry, I was just talking to Zach there, but I'm sure whatever Maito was saying was very interesting, but I have nothing to reply. Indeed, because I wasn't hearing anything that you said. But
Shame
yes,
on you.
Let's give this a second go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are spawning into New England. We'll check the map again. We'll make sure it's all good.
Wait.
Don't worry, guys. We want this to be a fair game. But,
I mean,
your points, they will be preserved. Don't worry.
It did spawn fair. It's just a lot less gold than normal, actually.
Do you think it's fair? There's a ton of extra food in Tabben's side, and we can go again.
Okay. I think we rehost this again. Yeah.
All right, we're going to give it another go. That is the issue sometimes with these maps, but at least as casters we can actually see this before the game starts, and we can ensure that there is going to be a...
Did you mention it to them? Sometimes you mention it with the hashtag. That's why I wasn't sure.
Oh, yes. I don't know why I use the hash. I think it's because I'm so used to doing that against opponents.
When you use the hashtag, I can't see what you write because we're technically on the same team. So I thought maybe you'd already said something to them.
You can. That's interesting. You can say. I didn't realize that when you send a message to your opponent, it doesn't also show to your allies. That's peculiar. Okay, it looks like that map, both players missing one mine, but I suppose it's fair. But New England being a low gold map, we kind of want to make sure they have the relevant numbers of gold.
Yeah, hopefully third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I'm in the... Okay, yes, we're just explaining to the players what was wrong with that map there. We're now launching back in, so you guys will see in a moment when the game gets in. All right, everyone, your denarii should have been given back to you. At least I hope so. I'll let the guys figure that out, but... Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to place your bets, because this time we are spawning in, and as they say, third time's the charm. This is New England, spawning on the top of the map, in the color red. You'll see him in just a moment, will be Tabben.
Why does it keep happening?
Oh dear.
No mine again for Tabben this time.
Okay. This is actually quite funny. Oh dear. Maybe we should have taken the previous spawn. Maybe we should bet on whether or not New England spawns correctly. That sounds like a lot more fun, actually.
Well, actually, I mean, they both have like I mean, they have the same amount of gold on their side, but Tabben just doesn't have a second gold mine. It's like really, really far away.
All right. God, at least though. Once we get into it, at least it will be fair, and I'm really looking forward to seeing New England. We saw an absolute corker of the game last week. If you missed the previous show match that we put on Sunday this time last week, we'll put a link to that in the description as well. This cast leaves much to the imagination. That's right. And now you can't see the map. And when we say yeah, we need a restart, no one can argue with us anymore. No one can. Kaiser can't look in there or anyone else and go, nah, that's fair.
They can't question my wisdom.
Yeah, basically. Oh dear.
This is one of those situations where you wish you weren't recording every game so you could just get through all the rehosts really fast. Speaking of which, we should eventually remind them to save the recordings.
Yeah,
before they get deleted.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do that after this game, I suppose. This is why we don't traditionally use the RE maps, because they often spawn a bit wonky, rather. Pardon me. But yes, New England is such a fun map that we wanted to include it in the pool anyway, and we are determined to get a spawn. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're now launching in, hopefully for the final time. And Maito...
All right, this one's acceptable.
Okay.
There's less gold than there should be, but it's fine.
Okay, so both players have less gold than normal, but that's fair. And maybe that'll be an interesting game. They'll be a bit gold-starved, perhaps. We'll find out. But ladies and gentlemen, place your bets. 3 minutes remaining, and we should have fixed all of the bets, the monies, they've been returned to you, all of that kind of thing. You can now use the 3 minutes to take a look at the map, but I'm sure if you were a savvy bettor, you would have been doing that anyway. Looks like LordRaphael coming through with a landslide at the moment. 90% voted on him for this game. Maito saying that this particular matchup might be strong for Spain, but for British. But we'll see. Let's see what Tabben has in mind. Yes, here he is in the north of the map, in the color blue, playing as the Spanish, leaving that 100 gold on the floor. Villagers going to gather right away, and it looks like that War Dog and the Scout off to a nice start, going to find those sheep that do spawn on this map. But no trading post will be available because this is not a wood start here, but is going to come across a native Scout treasure. I think he's going to be quite pleased with that, maybe use the crack shot and pick that up. But at the moment, 3 sheep to Tabben. His opponent, LordRaphael, playing as the British here in the south of the map, elected constructing to build a market and 1 mana there. He's going to have to gather a little bit of coin to get that hunting dogs, but actually coming across 90 coins, so won't have to gather any and can get hunting dogs for free, essentially, from his market there. But yes, that is the difference. 1 house and a market. Spain just a house. British do start with more wood. That is just part of their civilization, and that is the way that is. But it does mean that Tabben, with his war dog, off to a very, very good start. There's 6 sheep already, and LordRaphael only picking up the 2. So Tabben in a good spot for this Age 1.
And Tabben walked basically past all of his treasures straight towards Raphael's side, so he's got pretty much everything, every treasure on the map scouted, except for maybe this 2-dog treasure and obviously the ones near Raphael's base. But if Raphael tries to go for anything else, he'll know, and with this native and the war dog now, he'll be able to apply a lot of pressure if Raphael does choose to start anything. And looks like for now they're just gonna pass each other in peace, unbeknownst to each other.
Yeah, they don't know he's there, but look at this army he's massing up. Tabben, he's got his war dog that he started with, which really scales a lot now because he's found himself a Cherokee rifleman, and he's going to pick himself up an Iroquois tomahawk. This is an impressive Age 1 mass from Treasure Guardians that almost rivals that of, say, the Sioux war chief. And if that British explorer is found, which he might well be because, you know, that was a 90 food treasure that Tabben had scouted, Tabben's going to know that that scout is back there because that was the treasure that he scouted earlier, so can come back here, and War Dog has found him. He's coming in. Explorer coming around the other side here to head him off, has got the snare, looks like he's going to be able to catch up, and that British Explorer could well be toast.
Should be okay maybe though. The War Dog doesn't snare. And
he doesn't snare.
Coin for himself. No, the War Dog doesn't snare.
A bit like the native scout then on EP, it doesn't snare, but...
yeah,
oh, wow, both players
Guardians
getting that age up. They're getting the age up in exactly the same time, so this is absolutely on point from both players, clicking up at exactly the same time. But still, the War Dog, snare or not, does do damage, and you can see now, certainly the Explorer does snare, and these 2 units nearby. The British Explorer looks like he will be going down. But let's switch on over to shipments sent. 3 villages from both players there, and you can see now Tabben switching quite a few over to wood. I expect he's going to save for a trading post. We'll see where that Explorer goes to pot it down. His opponent in the south here also all switched over to wood. British can't age with 400 wood because, well, they just can't. Let's see what he is aging with. He's going up with the governor, so we'll get an outpost and 200 coin, but because of the lack of wood, has to gather all on the trees here. Now going to put down some manor houses and save for his military building, so to speak. Looks like Tabben, he's not laid down the trading post just yet.
Yeah, might be waiting for... Well, actually, I'm not sure that he is going for advanced trading post. He's gathering up to 200 wood. We'll see if he chooses to wait. He has a shipment queued up. Like, he doesn't have a shipment queued up, actually, so he's definitely not going to be going for advanced trading post this time, which means he might be going for something more aggressive. He did kill Raphael's Explorer, so Raphael's not going to be able to scout or anything like that. So something aggressive, like a really fast FF, could be pretty devastating if Raphael doesn't prepare for it.
Yeah, we have mentioned, you know, this in this game, in this matchup, you know, British might do quite well against Spain. So actually, perhaps he wants to hit them early on where they are weakest, right? Going to use that really aggressive, fast fortress. What are you thinking?
Oh, never mind. I thought Raphael was going to use the outpost wagon to rescue his explorer so he could do some scouting. But no, just decides to place it instead. Maybe he doesn't want to risk losing it to Guardians or anything like that. So just going to place it next to this trading post, next to the water to sort of lock that down a little bit.
But it's going to take damage because it's so far out, right? The Explorer, the Rifleman are right there. They're both going to do their damage to it. Looks like 12 siege attack on the Cherokee Rifleman. And, oh my goodness, half HP almost already just from construction damage.
There's a 6 musketeer shipment on the way. Just looking at Raphael's population, I'm pretty sure there's 6 musket shipment on the way. No,
maybe he'll spawn them at the outpost.
I'm wrong, actually. I have to be wrong because he's got 4 muskets in queue, so never mind.
Yeah, and maybe that population is 5 villages or something like that, plus a musket, and that maybe confused you. But
Brit get a lot of vills from their manners.
Yeah, that's how that works. Yes, they are British. But 5 muskets do pop out here, but he can't really come on in here since, there is another Spanish outpost right next to it, and the Explorer and the Cherokee, that Cherokee dude, where is he? I don't know where he's gone, but the Cherokee, here he is, has, multipliers. I like this. Coming back in when the unit is low on health. He's just going to keep sieging it with this small army. He's going to trade these off, so to speak, for that kill there. But Tabben, as we were expecting, now up to the next age. 700 gold was his first colonial age shipment, and has already gotten the fast fortress age up in queue. 700 wood following up behind that. Is going to build a market, so this is not super all in. He's going to have some form of economy behind it, or at least certainly wants hunting dogs or an upgrade, something like that. But that would going to be used to construct houses, clearly the market, and also his military building there as well. This is a very low HP outpost here, and this is a very aggressive outpost from Tabben. A second trading post coming down, so actually Spain, not intending to use all of that wood purely to be aggressive, is going to have some sort of follow-up, going to have an extra trading post, a bit of a, perhaps extra power because of it. But LordRaphael, he's now massed up a few muskets. It looks like if we switch on over to military units there, he's got 15, so 3 batches, and is going to come out here and take down this outpost.
Yeah, what is Tabben's resources invested into? He's built a second trading post. He doesn't have a barracks down anywhere.
Yeah, placer mines and a market and hunting dogs and placer mines, yeah. So
Yeah,
not
a couple
super
more
aggressive, and
houses.
sending 5 villages as well. So it looks like Tabben wants to be...
This is interesting. I wonder if he's maybe actually planning to go industrial or something like that. Just because he doesn't have a military building, because this looked like a very aggressive fast fortress, but without a military building, there's no way you could possibly be aggressive, so...
Yeah, he's not going to be training any... if you want to be sending 2 falconets as your first shipment, which, British going to find it very tough to deal with early on, you're going to be needing to age up with, say, a pikeman or something like that, perhaps even ship pikemen before you get to age 3, and certainly be at least training something like musketeers. And without a building, you're not going to be building any musketeers, right? So hasn't trained any units, so can't possibly be shipping... can't be going with cannons early on. So this is a more eco-orientated strategy coming out of the Spanish player. Actually aged up with a caravel and 200 wood. 400 wood, pardon me, and the Vela's spawning in the pond here, so he has moved it to the pond, and that's going to give him a little bit of defensive potential. You saw the muskets take a little bit of damage before as they sort of walked past this Vela, and these ones as well. That's one way to get cannons in the colonial age, although he is in the fortress age, but boats armed with cannons, no matter what your age is.
And since he saw the muskets coming across towards his base, he did actually decide to buy some wood. I believe he bought wood anyway, to drop down 2 Raxes, so be able to train some units to defend here. So any ideas he might have had about going up to industrial, going to be squandered by this push, at least for the time being. And 5 Hussars being trained as well from Raphael behind this.
Looks like he wants to take this fight here, possibly going to call his Minutemen, but War Dogs, Explorer, and 5 Lancers are available. And this, okay, but yeah, as you said, the Hussars, they're now here coming in from behind, going to take down those villages. Couple of muskets coming out, Minutemen being called as well. This isn't ideal. The Lancers want to be doing damage against the Musketeers, but the Hussars going to be very effective at cleaning this up. I thought that Tabben would have had a strong showing in this fight, but British with those Hussars going to do well. I say that though, but the War Dogs actually and the Minutemen doing a lot of damage here, so this is going reasonably well for Tabben, although the Lancers perhaps not as effective as he had hoped. LordRaphael shipping 2 caravels into the pond here, making short work of the one Tabben aged up with, but the British player now starting to gain some map control, and these are going to be a real nuisance.
Yeah, they certainly will be, especially for any units that Tabben just rallies to reinforce this army. That being said, though, this army might not be able to stand in this location very long with those caravels providing fire, and the Hussars now snaring on to the Musketeers.
Ah!
The Musketeers reinforcing behind, and the Falconets, no!
No! Oh no! Oh dear! Does get a volley on the Musks, but going to be cleaned up very quickly by these Hussars. This is not what he wants. The Falconets were supposed to be a power play. Supposed to be very hard for British to deal with. British was supposed to have to, pay a lot, spend a lot, do a lot to get rid of the Falcons, but here gets rid of them very quickly. And now the Spanish player Tabben probably not going to be very pleased at all. You can see, his strategy really was focused around getting up to this fortress age and having those powerful Falcons falconets and making an advantage there. And you can see British very far ahead in terms of economy and at the moment military as well.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Tabben at the moment after losing those falconets. Raphael sort of just turning on the pressure after Tabben aged up. Sort of kind of expected him to age up, as would sort of be the standard. You know, you kill that outpost, you age up, you send your own falconets, and sort of just play from there. But instead, just adding down the stable, training more musketeers, and going straight into the Spanish base. Maybe noticed that there was no forward barracks or anything like that. Maybe saw the second trading post go down, and he knew that Tabben was up to something.
Yeah, so it just comes out, and that's absolutely what you got to be do, vigilance. But up in the top here, Hussars coming down to do some raiding. Going to be met by some of Tabben's Hussars. I think they'll come on top of this fight. They've got full HP, and the red ones don't, but not before a couple of villages go down. And he can't pursue too far with the caravels sitting on the coast here.
Yeah, these caravels provide a lot of safety for Raphael's army. Tabben could consider maybe shipping a frigate or something to try and contest that at some point, but for the moment he maybe feels he needs a sort of stronger land army to defend his villagers on the northern side of the map here on this gold mine and hunt.
Oh no! Tabben! Gonna take a couple of volleys from these musketeers as he tries to escape. Also,
worth mentioning, Raphael's using this gold mine here instead of the two gold mines behind his base at the moment. So that'll be nice for him in the long run. He'll get a little bit more gold out of that. Tabben will have a little bit less gold on his half of the map. And yeah, just a good decision for him. Also going to be cleaning up this trading post.
Okay, looks like Spain coming out here. 1,000 food was shipped, a bit of a power spike. Going to use that food to create lots of units. And we say, you know, we were looking at the British economy thinking, oh God, without those falconets, this is going to be really tough. But remember, Spain have a lot of shipments and are getting a few free picks on these units here. You can see he's 2 shipments ahead already. In Spain, that is, he's going to, you know, perhaps get a 3rd shipment ahead. Spain have a lot of shipments here, so going to receive lots of extra things. So this is not over yet, but it is looking quite difficult for Tabben. He's coming in now with musketeers. No veterancy on them just yet, but has some skirmishers in the back as well, which are going to be really effective against these musks. So as long as he can kite backwards with the skirms, going to be very pleased. But the caravels, this is really awkward. The pathing to reinforce just getting cut off. And here, there's so many musks, and now the hussars coming in. They're going to find themselves on top of the skirms. And Tabben quite far away from home, quite far away from any reinforcing unit here. And it looks like British going to pick up the victory there. LordRaphael taking game number 3.
Well, apparently I can't type GG. Oh well.
I'll do it for you. There we go.
Thank you. But yeah, those caravels coming in big, denying that those reinforcements there. He really needed those musketeers to dissuade those hussars from getting onto his army there. Although even with the musketeers there, I'm not sure that he would have been able to win it. Raphael just having a very strong standing army there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Tabben just had a really sort of weird game plan, it seemed like, with no military building going down in transition. Getting a second trading post all seemed pretty greedy, and Raphael did a really good job of punishing it.
Yeah, it looked like there were some mind games, perhaps. You know, really far forward outpost probably and you know, being aggressive on the outpost there in his base. Wasn't able to follow up that damage that he did with his sort of starting scouts. But I think placing that outpost really far forward was meant to sort of scare LordRaphael into thinking, oh God, here comes the super fast Spanish fast fortress where they make units in transition and to defend 2 falconets, which is their first, but none of first shipment rather. But none of those things happened. As you said, was playing a little bit greedy behind this, and maybe Tabben was hoping to get away with that, having played some mind games, trying to make Raphael think he was doing something that he wasn't. But that is this game. LordRaphael going to pick up a second victory. Let's take a look at the military unit population, and you can see here, Spain never able to really get ahead by a large margin, which is sort of where they want to be. Loses his falconets, and then this fight at the end does not go his way. And the whole game, the British just very far ahead in terms of villages because of the manors and the villager shipments and all these things. And you can see on the all resources gathered graph that translates into quite a number of extra resources at the end of the game there. Spain's game plan is to keep up with British using shipments, and in fact have a bit of a power spike with shipments and do some early damage with shipments, something like falconets. But LordRaphael, he didn't have to really deal with falconets all that much. The falcons were quite easy for him to kill, and as a result, looks like Spain does not end up victorious this game. But that was game number 3. LordRaphael pulling ahead here. He hasn't quite taken a big lead. Tabben could still make this 2-2. Let's see if he can do that. We're going to exit the game here. The next map, as you can see, we are panning around the Thar Desert. Expect a fast, bloody, and aggressive game up next. But yes, Thar Desert. Let's take a look. Okay, LordRaphael, he's played Germany, and he's played the British, or at least has won with those 2 civilizations. He can no longer play those civilizations. Tabben, he can't play Japan as he's won with that. But LordRaphael, because he just won, will now have to pick his civilization first. And LordRaphael, pardon me, Tabben can pick afterwards. Let's go into the lobby. LordRaphael, he has selected India. Let's see how Tabben responds to this.
Yeah, India makes a bit of sense in this map too, just because, well, for one, they're good on non-trading post maps, which Thar Desert is.
Yes.
And there's also some wood treasures and stuff like that that are pretty good for the early game for India to help them get that age up down sooner and stuff like that. And the Agrifort as well helps you get a lot of map control outside of your base. And as we know on this map, you have to leave your base pretty early for hunts and stuff like that, so the Agrifort can definitely help you control some of that for your villagers and deny some of that from your opponent, potentially, if you want to be aggressive. And Tabben, okay, going for Russia. Not typically considered the greatest matchup in the world.
No, but it is a civ that can gain map control, right? You've got the blockhouses. They're not necessarily reliant on trading posts. They can take a lot of, they can be aggressive early on. They can do these things. Okay, you're not a super big fan of the matchup, but maybe Tabben is happy to play Russia because this is a civilization he's practiced with, that he is familiar with and knows well. And we'll see what he has perhaps prepared for Russia versus India and see how this goes. But we're now launching into the game. Ladies and gentlemen, Tabben versus LordRaphael on the Thar Desert. This is an ESOC map, so should have a lot less issues with the coin and hunt spawn, although Maito will check that anyway. But spawning on the left-hand side of the map, in the color blue, we do have Tabben playing as the Russians. This is a 100 wood start here, although for India it will be much, much more, because of course the Indian vills cost wood. Here is India spawning on the right-hand side there. Welcome to the Thar Desert, rolling dunes and shifting sands, as you saw. And this map, as Maito said, you do end up having to leave your base quite quickly. There's not a lot of hunt here, enough to get you up to the next stage, and you do have a reasonable first hunt, but due to the number of elephants on the map, quite hard to herd and control them, and you do have to be really wary of where your villages are, and we'll see how aggressive and bloody and how that affects the game as we progress. But Tabben, let's see if he can bring it back. The score is 2-1 in favor of LordRaphael, and you guys seem to be placing a lot of emphasis, a lot of confidence on LordRaphael. The bets close in 1 minute 30, and currently 76% to LordRaphael there, so he's leading with a large margin at the moment, but anything can happen. Let's take a look at the treasures. 85 wood. LordRaphael off to a nice, quick start. That's a really solid treasure to be coming across as your first, especially for India, because their villages cost wood, so we'll have to gather less wood, and that's going to translate into a faster age up. Looks like, though, the Russian player in the south hasn't found a treasure just yet. Going to come across El Polo's...
Sorry, he just picked up 90 wood, actually, just a moment ago.
Oh.
So that will help him get his
both players got
up and stuff like that. Yeah,
I
both
see.
players picking up pretty much equivalent treasures.
I didn't notice that. Okay, well, that's they're pretty much the same treasures. And in terms of HP, Russia doing absolutely fine. And India, let's take a look at their scout. This one full HP, and this one even less. God, those stun abilities are really, really nice. But even treasures and an even age one thus far. Let's see how it pans out.
Yeah, so again, we were talking sort of about how this matchup isn't great for Russia. And one of those the reason for that basically is just because India is really, really strong in the colonial age. They have really good upgrades for their camels, and cavalry and ranged cavalry is sort of a weakness that Russia has in the Second Age and Third Age, really. And basically, India gets access to those units and those unit upgrades a little bit more easily than some other civilizations do. And that makes the matchup a little bit difficult. Also, the fact that it's really hard to be aggressive against India with that aggro fort, with the 2 sets of Minutemen from the town center, with the Ottoman Minutemen, and with all this stuff. And the fact that they don't need as many natural resources as other civilizations, because their villagers cost wood, that means they burn through hunts a little bit more slowly than another civ. So in general, like, Russia just wants to be really aggressive, but India sort of can ignore all of that because they have a lot of defensive tools and don't really need to be on the map as early.
Yeah, and just have a big presence on the map early with the Agrifort, as you were saying. We'll see where they get placed, but this Tabben now up to the next age, going to be going through the Philosopher Prince for the 500 food that it grants, instead of the 400 wood age up that players will usually get. So I think he's planning to make, Russia often find it quite tough to train lots of units as well as their villagers because they cost these big batches of resources to train them. So the food going to be helpful to get that in, but really, this isn't worth as many villager seconds as usual. What do you think of that age up?
Yeah, I think the Philosopher Prince is an interesting age up for Russia because, as you said, it's not efficient in terms of villager seconds, but at the same time, if you age with 400 wood and you drop a bunch of houses, and then you're being really aggressive and you're trading off your units all the time, those houses aren't necessarily going to be as effective or as efficient as 500 food would be, especially since you have the wood trickle already. So you'd be getting more wood over time anyway that you're not going to be able to spend if you're being aggressive. So the 500 food is basically just signaling that he's going to be pretty all in the early game here. It's going to allow him to train a lot of musketeers really, really fast. And yeah, it should be interesting. I'm not quite sure exactly how this plays out against India.
Yeah,
but,
he's going for...
maybe Raphael will get caught off guard.
How do you feel about the in-base Agrifort there?
I like it. It's in a position, too, where unfortunately it doesn't quite guard these trees, but I think villagers will likely be pretty safe in the back of the base they're gathering from trees in the back there. But it does it's in a position where the town center can also provide fire to any units that might be sieging the Agrifort. And he can sort of overlap the fire that way, which sometimes you can't. A lot of players will place their Agrifort out a little bit farther forward, so that it covers a lot more space and gives them a little bit more breathing room in their base. But yeah, this basically just makes the whole base is a little bit harder to push into, it feels like, with this placement here.
Very compact, right? He's got his mine and his hunts and the wood all sort of very close by. Not a lot of building room, but there is some sort of behind. We'll see how that goes. But Russia, looks like 5 musketeers have been trained, and his first shipment will be 13 Strelets. Has gotten a snare on the elephant. They're trying to pursue that down and do some damage to it. These units here can walk in and perhaps do some damage to the villagers. So Lord Raphael going to have to be very vigilant. He does see it, going to go into the town center. Foreign logging now coming out as his second shipment, so the economic shipment that we were expecting, but does pick up a villager. So Tabben already going to be quite pleased with these early pickups. He's going to walk through the base. This
is a little bit risky.
Yeah, but it's, okay, Gurkha now coming out here, and should be okay once these elephants are down.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think
just
Raphael
gonna trade
will be
off.
Okay. I'm not sure that Tabben will be okay.
Yeah, Tabben's trading off all of these units for a second Villi kill. He does get both the monks as well, but losing a lot of units for those Villi kills. How do you feel about that?
I mean, killing Vils is fine. It's kind of the only way you can win, I guess, as Russia. You have to do damage. So killing Vils is fine. I don't know if losing as many units as he did for it is fine. And we have to remember he's very all-in behind this, too. He's building a market back at home now as well, but the Philosopher Prince age up is sort of... Its strength is in the fact that you can train, like, basically 2 or 3 unit batches, like, back-to-back without having to delay any of them, which you sometimes do on the 400 wood age up, just because you need so much food for all of your batches and your villagers and everything, and you can't normally do that. And I think he just didn't get to abuse that in this game here, and so he's just going to be a little bit behind on his infrastructure and everything now as a result of having aged with 500 food instead of the 400 wood. And he's getting his relevant market techs now, but a little bit later than maybe he would have otherwise had them.
Yeah, steel traps now coming in, but he's not quite ahead in economy yet. Even though he traded off so many to kill those 2 villages. But Russia, their villages do train sort of more quickly in a way because of their batch training. But we'll see if he can get ahead. But as you mentioned earlier, that's, I think, not the important thing. In this game, it's going to be the fact that Gurkha, with a really strong range, that are going to be really good against all the infantry that Russia can make. Strelets and muskets, both are outranged. They also make the Zambarak in Age 2. They basically don't have to age to get those Fortress Age units, and that's going to be a real problem for Russia.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be a problem. Got the Ottoman consulate now. Going to be getting those villagers potentially in a moment, or maybe just the Hussars. He's still sitting on the export, so he hasn't quite decided just yet. And he actually went for the wood trickle as his first card instead of 600 wood. Despite all the pressure that was being applied, he felt comfortable doing that. So that's going to put him in a nice economic position. He could potentially send 600 wood later now, and just be ahead in that sense. And yeah, it looks like it is actually going to be the Hussars that he's training. So he's maybe going to be thinking about pushing out soon, or maybe he just feels like his economy is going to be stronger than Russia's anyway, most likely, and he doesn't really need the 4 villagers that you can get from the Ottoman consulate to stay ahead. And no stable out yet either. There's the 600 wood, so he'll use this to drop the stable. And this is just sort of how this matchup goes. India just sort of stays in their base, plays very, very slowly. You know, they don't have to feel rushed or anything. They can just sit back, get their infrastructure up, start building up the Gurkha Zam sort of unit composition that Russia sort of has trouble dealing with. Yeah. And once they have a good mass, then they can think about pushing out on the map and contesting resources and stuff like that, potentially killing the forward blockhouse and stable.
Yeah, it looks like if we take a look at the military unit tab, let's see what they've got at the moment. So, LordRaphael, 13 Gurkha, 6 Sepoy, and now has the 3 Gardner Hussars. They have arrived. No cavalry trained, but has just gotten that stable up, as you mentioned, and starting to add in houses. And it looks like Tabben fairly balanced in sort of all units there, but not really doing much with them just yet, sort of massing up, making sure he's got his upgrades in. It was sort of active on the map looking around. Oh dear, here's a raid coming in from LordRaphael. They do find a couple of villages, and this is the Thar Desert all over. This is what happens on this map. Hussars just rock up and start wailing on your vills. They do have great coats, though, so we're going to have a little bit of extra health, but the Gardner Hussars going to be no match for the villagers. The Cossacks do arrive, are going to chase them off, but these, they don't want to take it. You know, they want to stay away from fights so they can continue to be raiding and be annoying. They don't want to be snared in case more units are nearby or something, and you can see the marked effect of it, right? Look at all of these Russian units sort of moving around the map.
Yeah, and I guess this is why he went for the Hussars instead of the Vills, right? He just wants to be aggressive, be out on the map, try and distract Tabben's army, get a little bit of information too, while also maybe killing some villagers and getting some idle time to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have those 4 villagers in his economy as he normally would. Although he could actually choose to add the villagers in now. He does have the export to do so. He might just hold on to that for a little bit longer, so he has the option to call Minumen still if Tabben chooses to go for a push. But overall, yeah, liking the decision to go for the Hussars at the moment. Looks like a 4 Sowar ship coming out as well. Again, maybe just for raiding, but could also signal that he's thinking about pushing out sometime soon, as his mass is starting to grow.
Yeah, a very passive game at the moment. Russia not wanting to walk in and do any damage just yet, but it's got a big Strelet mass and a big Cossack mass as well. Perhaps we'll see Boyars come in momentarily and give a bit of a power spike that affects, you know, both of these 2 unit types here and be very, very strong. Let's see if he wants to do some damage, but it's quite, India very compact at the moment. The villagers not out on the map, like, they're still sort of nearby. The units can be easily defended, and Lord Raphael are just sitting there knowing his economy is stronger. Boyars has come in, though, so this is the moment for Tabben to do some damage. Strelets taking a volley at the Sowars there. Lots of cavalry and muskets in the back here. Gurkha, they do have the stronger range advantage. Zam's now coming in, although not a lot of the range on the Strelets to deal with them. Taking out a few villagers. Hussars now trying to come in. Cossacks, are they going to find target? Looks like, though, it looks like a fight will be committed to here.
Yeah, and this Russia has to win this fight, or else he's going to really struggle to win later in the game. Cossacks sort of not quite able to connect the way they want to, and it looks like Tabben's going to be forced to retreat here. There's just so many Russian units, with those Minutemen being called from the town center and the Ottoman consulate, really bolstering this army for the time being.
Oh, this is not good.
Yeah, it's looking like a rough situation, and the snare from these Soar as well, just buying so much additional damage for the Gurkha to deal to this army. And not quite walking back. Looks like he might be trying to go back in for a fight, but the Musketeers not quite on the same page as the rest of the army, walking farther away as the Cossacks go in. And at the end of the day, this looks like it's a pretty good fight for India.
Yeah, India doing really, really well there. The Cossacks never able to really find the target they want to go in, and they also didn't want to just to stay put, because they're going to lose a lot of HP to the Zambreks. The positioning really needs to be right, and Tabben really not being able to find it. But Cossacks now trying to come in to get on top of the Gurkha again, but there are so many Zambreks now in the back. These Cossacks are just going to bleed out and disappear and melt away, so to speak. And you can see now that India really has come out on top there. Tabben not really able to get anything done, and as a result, is not in a good spot now.
Yeah, and at this point, India's sort of hit that critical mass of Gurkhas and Zams, where they can just stay out on the map and kite pretty much all day. And yeah, the Cossacks just going to be dropping pretty fast to the Zams here. And I don't think there's much that Russia can do to get back into the game at this point. He's not really even trying to control his army, it looks like. And it's just going to get cleaned up here. So I guess maybe in the next game...
Yeah, we'll do screen share.
Yeah.
Lord Raphael pulling ahead in the series here. Yeah, not an ideal fight. Let's take a look at that military unit population here. You see Russia, they're always going to be ahead. Their units are cheaper, and they just make more of them. But they're not necessarily stronger, right, the India unit. So this is normal, but you can see India just comes out ahead in the fight. Big dip for Russia, and then the resign at the end there, when we see that the India economy is not necessarily ahead on villagers, but certainly... Oh, actually, Tabben really caught up. Tabben was actually ahead as Russia that whole game there, in terms of resources gathered. I guess, though, he sent an extra crate. That's not really... Huh, yeah, I was expecting India to be further ahead.
He sent one extra crate for sure, but India was ahead at the end of the game for sure. I suppose it's just all that idle time in the early stage of the game, where the Strelets managed to force all the villagers to garrison for a while, created a little bit of a gap. But of course, he's losing units while doing that, so it's not like it's for free or anything. And at the end of the day, it's really the unit composition that makes this really tough for Russia, just because Skirm Goon is just a really tough composition for Russia to deal with in general. And India having that in colonial, instead of having to age like most civilizations, means that Russia doesn't really have a window in which they can really punish India for going for that unit composition, and that just makes it really difficult for them overall, which is kind of why I was surprised to see Tabben picking this matchup, but maybe it was something that he felt he could maybe get away with, but I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he did get away with it, and the score is now 3-1 to Lord Raphael, currently victorious with India, British, and Germany, and will not be able to play those civilizations. But Tabben, he gets the consolation prize of picking afterwards, so does get the civilization advantage, so to speak, in the next game. Maito and I will screen share, and that will probably eliminate any lag and that will be a good thing. We want to make this as competitive as possible for the players. But can you see the screen now, Maito?
Let me take a look. Looks like I can. You should remind them maybe to save the recorded games as well before they get deleted.
Okay, we will let them do that. We'll make sure that we get those recorded games up on the online so people can check out the recorded games. But yes, LordRaphael must now pick first. So we'll see what he ends up going with. Deccan will be the next map. Maito, what do you think of Deccan? This is a map I'm really fond of at the moment. This in 1v1 at least. I think in team games it's a bit overplayed. We all know that. But 1v1 Deccan, we've seen a few really, really nice games here, and you have a lot of starting options. It is LordRaphael's first pick, and we'll see what he goes for. I'm expecting something like French here. That extra scout going to be really good for getting all those cows, and there are trading posts on this map, and also a civ that when you're going to be counterpicked into France, very safe, right? There's not really anything they can select to counter you, so to speak. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, France seems like a solid pick. But I mean, honestly, most civilizations can get a lot out of the starting crates. Maybe the one caveat is that some civs can't really get both the yaks and build trading posts because they don't have enough scouts. But looks like Raphael going to be picking Iroquois here, which definitely makes sense. They can get the early trading post, which is one of the reasons that Iroquois was considered extremely strong on the official patch. And was actually they had to remove basically the starting trading post from Iroquois to balance the civ. They also get that they could also build a farm with that starting travois, use that travois to pick up some yaks, and then build a farm back in their base for some hunting upgrades and also to fatten the livestock. So
yeah, that's a really good idea actually.
Iroquois seems like a good pick for sure.
Yeah, let's see what Tabben selects into it. But Iroquois, right, you're absolutely right. That Travois, it's not a scout, but it can go out on the plateau, and it has enough HP to not die, and it can find some cows, and then bring them home, and then turn itself essentially into a livestock pen. And that's insane. That's really, really good. And also, building the farm is a lot of XP as well, which is, I suppose, not as relevant, but certainly something. Looks like Tabben going to pick India. So with their 2 elephants, that's certainly going to benefit them here. Get those yaks and have a bit of an XP bonus as India there. These are the selection that they will be going with, but let's launch into the game, and we'll see where the players spawn and what resources they get and what sides of the map they are on all these good things. But ladies and gentlemen, the map is Deccan. The civilizations will be India versus Iroquois. The Indian player spawning in the color blue on the west-hand side of the map, east-hand side of the map, pardon me, the right-hand side of the map. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. There he will have, well, a lot of crates. It's Deccan. You start with a lot of crates. But the 2 elephants, let's note where they go. Starting crate, a coin, 50 coin in base. I don't think he'll stop for that. I imagine we'll see him just rush onto the plateau for the yaks that usually spawn there. But actually in 1v1, they seem to spawn sometimes off to the side of the plateau as well. So worth scouting around those corners. But 1 elephant going to go for the coin, the other heading straight onto the map. Iroquois in the left-hand side of the map in the color red. Here he is. The war chief, as we expected, sort of heading towards the trading post on the top route where there are more trading posts. There are 3, so has more stagecoach potential. Going to head for that one up there. And the Discovery Travois looks like it's going to have a look around the map. Going to use that starting wood to lay down a market there. But let's take a look at the number of yaks they've gotten so far. No one's found any yaks just yet. 2 going to LordRaphael. That's really kind of lucky. And also going to find a couple up the top with his scout. Going to delay the trading post and finds the 2 yaks. This is really solid for him.
Yeah, I think he's just aware that the yaks on this map tend to spawn next to the entrances to that plateau, so he decided to delay the TP just a little bit to try and find those. Unfortunately for him, it's going to cost him the pass on the XP here. So his first shipment will be a little bit more slow, or a little bit more slow. It'll be a little bit slower than normal, which might result in a slightly slower age up, but overall not going to be a super big deal for him. What I'm really interested to see, okay, yeah, I was going to say I'm interested to see if he decides to build a farm or if he goes for a longhouse with that Travois. Looks like he did go for the longhouse, and he went for the market instead of the farm.
Okay, fair enough.
I gotta say, I'm not sold on that idea, but sure.
I mean, that's like
It
that's the standard play, right? You'd build a longhouse. You're gonna stick with that.
Basically, sorry, go on.
The mill, just something a little bit different that you can do on Deccan because of sort of the extra resources here. But looks like he's just going to keep these yaks nearby as explorers so that they can't be stolen, and are going to go for a 100 food treasure out on the middle of the map. Look at these! He's like a shepherd or a cowwood. A coward? That's not the right word, but you know, you know what I'm trying. A cow herder. I don't know what they are called, but. That is the case. Has picked up a lion as his treasure guardian there, using the nature friendship ability, and actually now just going to send these units off to the south there. I suppose the lion actually scouted these two monks, so he must know that these cows are sort of safe to go home without being stolen. He's just going to send them home now. Otherwise, why would he be doing that? That would be quite questionable, but especially after defending them. But yes, that is the case. Let's take a look at the age 1. Tabben, he did end up on top. He got 4 yaks, but not before LordRaphael got a few cheeky early picks there. Looks like Raphael only has 3 cows. So I think the 2 that we saw sort of over here next to the plateau entrance, one of them must have been stolen. So Tabben...
I think actually he ate one because there's 8 yaks on the map, right? And Tabben only has 4 of them. So he must have eaten one to get his age up in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of age ups, though, Maito,
stole it and deleted it.
They are now up to the next age. It looks like we will have a forward aggro fort in the middle of the map there from Tabben. Looks like the lion will see that. He knows that that's going up there. And LordRaphael going to go up with the wise woman for the resources. Wait, is that right?
That's correct.
Excellent.
It does give you the resource crates and that travois that you can use for a war hut or stable or any other building of your choice.
Okay, in base... war hut there. He saw the aggro fort with his lion. He wants to play defensively here and keep this sort of nearby the entrance to the plateau. Looks like, though, we will see a second trading post come down sort of during transition, so to speak. But let's switch on over to shipments sent now and watch that progression. Their first shipments will be arriving shortly. Certainly for LordRaphael, India now just up to the colonial age. And the 2 sepoy that you get for free now sort of coming across the map there. But 3 villages and distributivism, nothing unusual from these players. Gonna pick up a rhino with a nature friendship ability. That's really, really nice.
Yeah, that's gonna definitely help his early army.
5 villages coming from LordRaphael. So looking to be having an economic start. Sort of makes sense with the defensive in-base war hut there.
I wonder if Raphael's going to go for that 3rd trading post at some point on the top to try and get stagecoach, or if he's just going to sit on the 2 TPs for a while. I mean, it would be hard to defend that 3rd TP with it being so close to Tabben's base, but stagecoach would definitely be a nice addition to the Iroquois economy at some point. So that might be something that's on his mind later on in the game. But for now, it looks like he's gathering up to potentially age to fortress. He's almost got the 400 gold that he'll need in combination with the 600 gold to get the resources for the fortress age.
Yeah, but
little does he know there is a sepoy timing coming in here, though.
Yep, 5 sepoys trained, 5 sepoys shipped, and 2 sepoys for free from the aggro fort. Do pick up a villager kill, possibly a second one there if this one doesn't hop into the town center. Does go down, and in the back here gets the stomp on the Ayana that have come out, and this is going to be really strong from Tabben. A lot of units in base keeping those vills built up. All 19 villagers in the town center. Iroquois war chief goes down as well, and I think LordRaphael probably going to be regretting the second TP. Quite a little bit greedy, I suppose it is Deccan. You do get the extra resources, but here, a lot of units in his base, and actually finding it quite tough to get that large. He needs to gather that coin up. He can't get the age up in queue. And these, if they, this has slowed his age up considerably.
Yeah, it certainly has. And this is sort of a result of, yeah, as you said, that second TP and then going for the Rhino and stuff like that. He wasn't actually scouting. He didn't actually confirm that Tabben was being passive or anything like that. Maybe just sort of assumed that Tabben wouldn't take the risk with the forward Dagger Fort or would maybe go for something greedier like a Carnimata. And so he decided that he could get away with the age up if he was fast enough, but does lose a couple of villagers to this timing, but looks like at the end of the day, he is going to get the age up in queue. And I think he's actually going to be totally fine with the age up in queue now. And Tabben forced to retreat here, and only a handful of Sepoy coming to reinforce, and not any real sort of follow-up from Tabben at the moment. Behind this, he's not got the resources to age, doesn't really have a stable or maybe even a consulate down with that wood trickle coming in that will take a while to pay off, so... Yeah, I think LordRaphael kind of getting away with something that could have gone a lot worse.
Yeah, this is actually quite an even betting, or more even than before. 59% in favor of LordRaphael, so people still favoring Raphael here, but a little bit more confidence in Tabben. It looked like a very strong start from Tabben, delaying that age up from LordRaphael, but he is now up. He used the messenger politician to get up quickly, and will now see that powerful Iroquois fast fortress, or semi-fast fortress, so to speak. But let's not count Tabben's follow-up out just yet, because if we switch on over to units lost here, it looks like LordRaphael, he did lose a couple of villagers there, so I guess it could have been worse, but 2 villagers down, and that is the case. And if you look at the economic unit population, India has a tremendous lead at the moment. Let's see, though, if he can leverage that into an advantage. The trouble is he'll now be up against those sort of techie units, so to speak. Let's take a look at that Iroquois deck here. We're going to see, the strong 6 Kanya shipment. We've got 5 musket riders, 8 forest prowlers, and a couple of sort of mercenary upgrades as well. Delivers 10 villagers and a covered wagon, costs 1,000 gold, and 5 renegade French. You get 5 veteran cuirassiers for 500 gold as well. So some strong shipments from LordRaphael, but actually going to open with one of the more efficient ones, although it doesn't give you anything immediately. You have to train these resources into units, but a little bit slow, but could pay off nicely. It is quite an efficient shipment. Musket riders now being created from the Iroquois corral in the back there. India now has sort of, looks like he's going for a big colonial sort of timing by the looks of it. Has a big sepoy mass, and has a few sawars to back this up that should be effective against the forest prowlers there. Looks like he's now coming in with quite a large army, and this could be eight forest prowlers have arrived. So that's going to be effective against the Sepoy, but let's see if he can do some damage. Big button being researched now at the town center for the Iroquois player, and that's going to give him a few extra units that he's going to need to deal with this here. Tomahawks coming out on the back, but now the Sour they have found on top of the, trying to get all of them in on top of the Forest Prowlers. That's exactly where he wants to be. How do you feel about this?
Well, with the 5 musket riders coming in, it looks like he might be okay. Unfortunately, the Anticav not in the best situation to protect those forest prowlers, but it looks like at the end of the day, India not going to do so much with this timing, unfortunately. And Iro going to come out ahead. Still going to be behind in economy, but with the much stronger military at the end of this.
Yeah, that timing not working so well. And now the Iroquois player, he's got, reasonable Fortress Age army, those techie units coming out, dealt with all of the Indian units there, and yes, India's economy is solid, but no units to back this up. Could be a little bit tough to deal with being only in the colonial age. I guess, though, India, they do have access to all of the unit types, so that could help, but, very small army, only 5 Sepoy popping out now, and LordRaphael now getting veteran Tomahawks in there, going to have slightly more stats on those as well.
Yeah, I imagine if he's getting the upgrade, that means the 9 Tomahawk shipment is probably going to be coming behind this, which will probably be when he decides to push. Yeah, there's the Tomahawk shipment. Did it say 8 Tomahawks? Wait.
It did say 8 Tomahawks, yeah.
Does he not have 9 Tomahawks?
He does not have 9. He doesn't have it. He's only got 8 Tomahawks in his deck.
I'm pretty sure there's a 9 Tomahawk shipment, so...
Okay, so
well, whatever. He has 1 less Tomahawk than he would otherwise have. Big deal. Anyway, he's probably going to be thinking about pushing reasonably soon. Maybe wants just a few more units so he can feel a little bit more secure in his ability to fight outside of his base. But, yeah, for India, Looks like he's maybe saving up to age. He's got around 900 food stockpiled, maybe a 600 gold shipment on the way. And that means that this timing is going to be very scary for him to hold. I mean, they'll take a long time to siege down the Agra fort. He could maybe think about walling these choke points as well while he's aging up, which could buy him some more time. But, yeah, it's definitely going to be a long time before he's going to want to pick any fights.
Yeah, and it now looks like LordRaphael is ready to march the units out on the map. The Agra fort is blasting them, and now going to move forward.
He's trying to bait the Agra.
Oh, I see. He's trying to
getting the treasure.
Try and make the treasure guardians go after the Agra fort. Yeah.
The treasure is out of range of the Agra fort though, so those units are not going to be attacking the Agra, unfortunately for him. But it was a good attempt. If it was a little bit closer, it would have been a little bit annoying for Tabben to be taking the extra damage on the Agra.
Yeah, and okay, here, doing a lot of siege, but infantry now coming in. Has a reasonable cavalry mass in the back there. Has enough Gurkhas to also deal with the tomahawks, and it looks like he should have enough units here to defend the Agra fort. The cavalry trying to get into position. Looks like, though, Cuirassiers coming from the sort of... That's going to be what he needs to handle the cavalry here, and with the musket riders in the back. Okay, melee, tomahawk... God, what am I trying to say? The sepoys going into melee combat. Okay, looks like there was a batch of sepoy coming out here. This still looks reasonably okay for the Tabben.
For the Tabben.
For the Tabben.
Yeah, looks like he is going to manage to clean this up, but I think maybe Raphael was expecting him to try and age up behind this, which he clearly was at one point. He was saving the resources there, decided to cancel it. But now that the fight... Oh, the Tiger Claw's coming out as well, going to be
baby,
pretty big with the anti-cav being dead here. But I think, yeah... Tabben deciding to cancel the age up, just staying in age 2. Despite being down in tech, he does have the superior economy, so he's going to have a much easier time replacing these units. And now that the smoke is cleared, Raphael, he has to leave his base for hunts and stuff like that, so his villagers are going to be quite exposed behind this while he has at a disadvantage with the military.
Yeah, but actually...
And I think Tabben's done it, maybe.
LordRaphael, though, not taking as much damage on these forest prowlers as perhaps he should have done. All the cavalry in here not following up with the forest prowlers, and they're sort of okay for the time being. Looks like some Kanya horsemen now coming out. No anti-cavalry in range here. Looks like he's going to get the Sours in front. Makes sense. The Gardener's Cow trying to follow up, but I feel like these forest prowlers could have been punished a lot more, but they managed to get to safety, and looks like Raphael still has them. Still, though, a lot of cavalry here from Tabben.
Yeah, not a lot of anti-cav. In fact, no anti-cav.
Okay, now the forest... Yeah, but there are enough Gurkha to handle them, I think. Only a couple here. They are trying to stay out of range of the skirmishers and pick off these cavalry here. Looks like the Gurkha frantically trying to push them down there. These cavalry, though, they should be enough to deal really effective. Okay, only 2 Sawa left. And the musket riders have managed to stay alive, and they're able to clean up the cavalry once again, and the forest prowlers still here to survive.
Yeah, but just look at the economic unit population. Like, these trades are really, really bad for Tabben, but he can afford to take really bad trades because he has double the economy. Although, does Raphael actually have Stagecoach on that top trading post line?
He does.
He does. Okay, so that actually mitigates the economic advantage by quite a bit. Although his villagers are being idled at the moment, and he's also gonna have trouble with map control, but maybe it's not gonna be as difficult for him to replace these units as it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I still, despite the trade route, what's this, worth about 4 villages each, given, but one's been deleted?
Oh, I guess he hadn't actually constructed it.
Oh, yeah, the trade, I see.
Foundation.
The foundation, yeah. Right, gotcha. Okay, so actually, this isn't as effective as it looks, and that wood was sitting there idle for a long time because perhaps LordRaphael, he had to keep his war chief in base to deal with the pressure. He wanted those extra hit points and the special ability that it has, and the aura as well, and it never actually went off to build the trading post, so that seems to be what happened. But Kanya Horsemen now elite, now coming in, but there are a lot of Sours behind this here, and now they're going to have to try and leave. There's a lot of Indian units here. Sour's not great against Cav, but there are so many of them that this should be fine. Going to take down these Kanyas.
Yeah, and they're so fast, too. So much faster than normal cavalry that there's really not much you can do to try and avoid the snare here and escape. And, yeah, they're going to get in there onto the Forest Prowlers in a moment once these Kanya get cleaned up.
I think finally, the forest prowlers are going to... They've survived 2 deaths, but it looks like the Sowars are coming for them now, and I don't think they can survive this one, bar a miracle. But, yeah, it looks really, really solid for Tabben with this really powerful economy in the back. And he could also build this trade post, right? I don't think he's noticed that it's stage-coached, but if he had, he would certainly send a villager up there to construct it. But back in the base here, only a few musket riders left, now snared by the cavalry there, meaning the Gurkha in the back are going to be able to do good damage. But Sao are very weak, so actually these might be able to take these down and then sort of get to safety, but it doesn't matter. There are so many units just flooding in from the India economy. You mentioned that India are okay to take bad trades. As long as he's just keeping the pressure up, he's okay. He's got this big... GG, yes. Damn, you played this so bad, says LordRaphael. But it doesn't matter. Tabben picks up the victory. A bit of smack talk. It's kind of hard to say that when you lose, but Tabben agreeing with him nonetheless. But Tabben, he coming back into the series. Not one-sided, not so one-sided. This is shaping up to be a good series, and Tabben was not favored to win that. Raphael, most of the points were on him to win. So whoever betted on Tabben, congratulations. You've got a big juicy point prize there, and I'm looking forward to seeing the standings in the chat. Looks like so far in 5th place, Gero Castros, a person I've known for a while. Comic K as well, then followed by Pepkzet, Sompukunku in 2nd, and Vividly Plain in 1st, representing the Samurai Revolution Discord. Well done, Vivid. You are in the lead at the moment. Let's see if you can keep that lead up. But let's take a look at the post game here, and let's just go straight to the all resources gathered. Look at India just like steamrolling ahead. They get a villager with every shipment. They get 4 villagers from the Ottoman consulate. Market upgrades, all of these things, and Raphael just not able to keep up. He played quite a long game. He was able to hold on just because he was sort of fighting in his base and had those techier units, which are sort of hard to deal with. But ultimately, the economy wins Tabben the game and makes the score 2-0.
2-0.
Pardon me. I mean, Tabben has got 2 points, is what I meant, yes, but not 2-0. Yeah, we know what I'm trying to say.
All right, we'll pretend the 3 games that Raphael won didn't exist.
Yeah.
Raphael now has to win 5 more games. He still cannot use any of the civilizations he previously used. So good luck to him.
Yeah, good luck to him. He's still that is not how that works though, thankfully. But let's see what happened. Let's see what's in store for us in the next game. So that will be on High Plains, and as you can see, up next, Tabben will have to pick his civilization first since he was victorious. Let's see what he goes for. But yes, I'm interested to see. High Plains, a very high. Trading post map, as you can see on that mini-map there. But he's already played Spain, but he can select it again. I wonder if Tabben will be more confident picking Spain on this map. He can go for it again. Also Portugal, that's another civ I think Tabben could go for here. We will see what he goes for. Any thoughts, Maito? I ask you a lot for thoughts.
I mean, any civilization that... can either make use of the trading posts or else really benefits from having a lot of safe resources in your base for a long time will be pretty good. Germany is going to be good as well. They do have 2 gold mines in their base, which is ideal for the fast fortress style they like to go for. And of course, the trading posts going to be good for Germany, regardless of how many he wants to take. So that seems like a decent pick.
Okay, and Tabben, he's going to have a 1-minute break. He's going to grab himself perhaps something to drink, go to the loo. We're in the lobby here. Tabben picking Germany. Let's see what LordRaphael selects in response. He's already played, so he can't German mirror. He cannot play the British.
Nor can he play India.
Or India. All civs he has won with. Okay, and with that in mind, I don't think he'd want to play British here anyway, so that's not really a big deal. I think he's still got lots of options open to him. I think Raphael, he's got a wide, European civ pool selection, so to speak. He's quite good with most of all of the European civs.
gonna predict France, I think.
Do you think so?
Just-
That's
think so.
interesting.
I
All
feel
right,
like
that's interesting.
France is just a civ that he's always been very comfortable with, and having used those other 3 civs, and maybe not wanting to use a civ like Aztec on a map like High Plains, which is another one of his civs, or Russia on a map with just so many resources in the base, like those aggressive civs are just not going to be very effective. I feel like France is sort of the safe pick here, although they're not the best into Germany. I feel like there's something Raphael is comfortable with, and he'll play them even into a poor matchup, most likely. He's even written a guide, actually, on that specific matchup, French versus German, on the ESOC forum. So it's
Ah,
definitely something that he's willing to play, or at least experienced in playing. So,
something he's clearly thought about a lot. Yeah, so
Mhm.
as Maito's saying, Germany are very strong. Well, I think this matchup, France certainly, and Lord Raphael would agree with this, playable versus Germany. They are, however, it seems the competitive community thinks at a little bit of a disadvantage, and that's because they both sort of do similar things. But Germany, if we're talking about that semi-FF playstyle, can do it a bit better, I suppose, since they do have sort of a stronger, earlier eco. Okay, he's asking for the Civ. I'm sure we'll see. Well, we're saying France, but we don't know what he's going to pick. But I'll continue anyway. Germany get those villager shipments. They get 3 settler wagons, 2 settler wagons, really, really strong. And around that sort of mid-game, when you're going to be coming with those big, powerful Fortress Age timings, that's when those extra villagers sort of start paying off. And also 3 Ulans for every shipment that you get for free. That's really, really solid. So I think Germany... yes, would be quite good against France there. But we'll see what he picks. He may not even pick France. France do have the 2 cannons. That's something to bear in mind.
He
He's
could
having...
maybe also go for Sioux again. This is a pretty good map for Sioux, so I would not be surprised to see him pick that as well.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Sioux on the high plains recently, and that's kind of thematic, I think, and accurate. I'm
Yeah, I
Soldier in the
suppose
chat there.
that is
Welcome,
where
I'm
Sioux is
Soldier.
from.
And yeah, that is where they're from, right?
Yep, I believe so.
And Kaiser Klein in the chat saying he thinks Germany's a solid pick on high plains just because Germany will do quite well against all of the civilizations that are often picked on high plains, like Sioux, for example, that you're saying. So Germany sort of a safe option there when you're picking first. That's always that to consider. Raphael still having a
Yeah,
thonk.
and I think some of the other civs you would normally think about picking on high plains are like Portugal, for the advanced trading posts and stuff like that, like Spanish. Um, even Ottomans are all civs that like Germany is sort of okay playing against. Um, so even despite the fact that it's a good map for them with those trading posts, it's not necessarily that great against Germany, which is maybe why Raphael's thinking a little bit about this pick here. Because he's not quite sure what he wants to pick that works on the map, but also works against Germany.
I see. Yeah, that's fair. And Kaiser pointing out actually Sioux wasn't the civilization he had in mind when he made those comments. That's fair. And that makes sense, right? Lord Raphael, he's good with the European civs. So perhaps those civs would be more likely picks from him here. I think Lord Raphael, he's clearly having a hard time coming up with a civilization here. He's having a good old thonk. He's considering... I think that might...
LordRaphael.
I think this might be indicative that Lord Raphael is a bit worried about this matchup. He's just not sure what to play into it.
I think Germany in general is a civ that a lot of people are not super comfortable playing against. Yeah, so I don't know. They're definitely a civ you have to be well prepared to play against for sure.
Should we take a look at their decks and see what Tabben has in store?
I
He's
guess
probably got
why
quite a
not?
lot of decks, so it's something that's going to be sort of we're gonna and this one's Dopsker. Nothing. I think we'll just look for any unusual decks. Nothing funky.
All right. When do we give him the 1 minute timer?
I don't think we need to. Okay.
Okay. Aha! My first prediction has proven correct.
Maybe he was reading.
Unless he
Maybe
changes it at the last second.
no. He's gonna go for it,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen. It looks like the matchup will be Germany versus France. And we are now heading into this next game here. Let's see how this goes. Tabben has selected Germany. He did that first. And then after a very long thonk, LordRaphael elects to play French. And as we've been saying, France possibly not as good as Germany in this matchup. Certainly still playable, and something LordRaphael is comfortable to play. As you said, he's written a guide to how to play this very matchup. So it's clearly something he's thought a lot about, and he took a long time to come up with this civ, so maybe wasn't quite sure what to do, but this is definitely a considered choice, and it's something he wants to play. Let's start with LordRaphael in the south of the map, in the color red, and I'm very looking forward to seeing what the bets will make of this. Currently, LordRaphael on 60%. And Tabben on 40. We'll see how that changes at the end of the timer. But do get your bets in and be careful. Don't leave it to the very last second because obviously there's a 5-second stream delay on that timer and it will be counted to 0 before you've actually gotten to 0, if that sort of makes sense. But a 100 would start here, so going to see a market coming out of Tabben, pardon me, LordRaphael, the French player here, and going to put a few villagers on gold right away. He found 30 coin in base, which is going to be quite nice, quite helpful for getting the hunting dogs upgrade. His other treasure is 30 food there. Not so interesting. And is going to now get out on the map and start looking for treasures, but comes across the sunflowers. This should be a meme. I want to see this treasure on a Facebook page. Sunflowers. How do you eat sunflowers, and why are they worth 130 food? This is a very powerful treasure on this map, and even from the vanilla days. In fact, it's nerfed on ESOC patch from 140 to 130 food. Gonna pick that up. France gonna be really, really pleased. But before the timer expires, bear in mind, Tabben also finding a very, very strong treasure as well. So both players off to a good start on treasures, though the French explorer is here. Pardon me, Scout going to do some damage there. I wonder how much the treasures will influence the betting. It's very, very exciting. But yeah, Ryan set saying 130 food, game over. Not quite that game ending, but it's certainly a good treasure. And but 95 wood is also a good treasure. Off to a quick start here. And now LordRaphael going to go for 70 XP as well. There's also a villager on Tabben's side of the map there, though France will have scouted this. I think this will be a hot point of contention, but France are having more health because they didn't have to go for the Bazwood, and also that scout probably going to be able to guard this treasure and stop Germany from going for that. But that's the one good thing about playing France. You do have that extra native scout and can have a bit of better early treasuring and things like that. But a villager is going to be a hot point on the map, and it looks like now LordRaphael, he would have scouted that with the scout. Now coming forward, going to start working on it. Tabben, he's got line of sight to it. He's gone back for the 40 coins since he's quite low health. Perhaps scout the other side, but maybe if he's noticed it, he'll head on over. I think it might be too late. He needed to sort of go immediately, but it looks like LordRaphael is going to pick that up. Before we get Maito's thoughts on the game. Oh, it looks like a Tabben going to pick up a scout of his own. So both players going to have a scout. That sort of evens the playing field. And I think this is quite an even age one, though LordRaphael going to be coming out on top with the villager treasure. But both shipments are in. 3 Carrera de Bois and 2 villagers. The age up now in for LordRaphael. Going to be heading on up to the colonial age. But the betting standing 62% to LordRaphael. So you guys think LordRaphael, despite the civilization disadvantage, is going to come out on top, though it is quite close, or, well, perhaps not as close as the previous, but there's still a number of people betting on Tabben as well. I'm interested to see how this goes. Germany now up to the colonial age as well. Both players going up with the quartermaster Maito.
Yeah, pretty standard stuff so far, I suppose. Raphael getting a little bit of an earlier age up because of that 130 food. So that's going to be nice for him. And yeah, I mean, getting a little bit of an advantage in H1 is not super surprising, just because France does get that native scout, which does help them quite a bit in finding the good treasures and contesting them, whereas Germany with that one explorer is a little bit of a disadvantage. So that's kind of to be expected. Dropping down trading posts now. Raphael being a little bit more aggressive with that trading post. That's going to be covering sort of one of the raiding paths that Tabben might want to take later on, so it might give him some vision there. It also might mean that Raphael might want to be a little bit aggressive, since that trading post is actually quite hard to defend if he's going to be trying to age or anything like that. Although, that being said, I know that Raphael likes to musket semi in this matchup a lot, so I'm not sure that he will be aggressive. We'll just have to wait and see what type of military building he puts down and where it is. Okay, it's going to be a stable. So this is not quite what Raphael usually likes to do in this matchup, I think. I know in his guide he says he prefers muskets, but he did age up faster, so that might be part of the reason that he's going for the stable here.
Yeah, maybe having the 5 cav out sooner is basically the first batch will come and he has the option to train a second batch or something like that. And dealing with those sort of 7 Ulans that Germany get can be quite tough because they get 5 from the stable. They get 2 with every shipment. And I think just a faster age up time, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He's going to be able to deal with the extra Ulans that Germany has. But yes, there is potential for this trading post to go down. We'll see what Tabben elects to do. But both players have gone with the stable. Let's take a look at units in queue here. 3. Oh, that was like on at the same. No, looks like 3 settler wagons coming out. So going to be playing that eco style. Going to get those cards. And likewise is Lord Raphael's with 4 Carrera de Bois as well. 4 Hussars, only 4 going to be coming out of that stable. There's 700 wood being followed up, but Hussar's going to go out on the map anyway, despite not getting that 5th one. He's not afraid of these 7 Ulans, though he will be vigilantly watching here. Going to find the 2 Ulans there, but coming back to the 7, let's see. Okay, does not get the snare. Very close stuff there. Okay.
I'm surprised that Tabben didn't try to take that fight more. Maybe he's a little bit scared that there might be muskets behind this as well. He didn't get the opportunity to scout, as far as I know. He might have scouted the base a little bit with the native scout, but maybe didn't confirm that there wasn't also a barracks. As France can open with that Samwise build with both military buildings and potentially have a small military advantage at the beginning, so that may be part of the reason he's hesitating, or maybe even anticipating like a possible 3 Hussar shipment or something. So just playing it safe for the moment. Gonna wait a little bit longer for that 700 wood to come in for him to bolster that Ulan mass a little bit more before he tries to do anything super crazy or take any risky fights.
Native scout is going to go down, though. The Tabben extra German scout does get killed. Yeah, I'm surprised also he didn't take the fight. But, you are right. Muskets can be available. And as we've said, Lord Raphael really does like muskets, right? So maybe something on Tabben's mind. But Lord Raphael was sort of a little bit sleeper in that fight. He didn't... anyway, that's well and dusted now. But it looks like Germany going to be committing to the colonial age, following up with 700 wood, going to dump down a bunch of houses, and has gotten a lot of Ulans here. Looks like the pikemen being trained, so a really nice response from Lord Raphael. Knows that there could be a lot of Ulans, and now the Ulans really don't want to take a fight. And you can see Cav coming from both sides to keep him on this trajectory and make it very hard to sort of find an escape route. If he changes angles like this, these Cavs might get the snare, which they do not do, but still can't go around this side. You can see Lord Raphael already splitting up. Looks like he is going to find the snare there. These Cavs, they're coming back, but he's already trapped behind this, forced into taking the fight. The Pikes, though, lagging behind, but they will make it eventually to the fight here. These Cav, though, they are fighting without the Pikes, and these Cavs, so are going to get a bit of an advantage whilst the other units try and get in. Pikes have now arrived, and these Cav are going to be zoned off. They do not want to be near the Pikes, and these Ulans probably going to be fine, because by the time the Pikes get involved, the Ulans will have died, since they're very low HP units there. But I think I'm not sure what to make of that trade. I feel like it was reasonably even. Going to pick off the Pikes that have sort of been separated. Going to micro that one away. Okay. 5 more Pike Cav entering the fray. This is turned into a bit of a colonial commitment. Lots of extra batches coming out here just to try and get ahead in that early portion. Who came out on top?
I think Raphael definitely came up on top. Just if you're looking at the military population alone, he's up almost double the population. He can now think about maybe sieging down these trading posts or going for the base, which it looks like he's going for at the moment. And neither player started aging yet. Have been forced into taking another fight at his town center here. No Minutemen being called just yet. Here they are now. And this is just going to result in more Uhlans going down, Musketeers being added in behind this as well. And this is a rough spot to be in as Germany. If you're not already aging up to the Fortress Age, he's got to think about committing more resources into Colonial and more muskets coming. And this is just a really scary timing to have to hold.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here now being forced off gathering, and the pikes do find themselves near the Uhlans here, already called Minutemen. Does have 3 Dops and 2 Uhlans popping out on top of the Hussars there, but LordRaphael is paying attention. Does also have Musks nearby, which are going to be very strong against these Doppelsodners, and I think these Dops going to get picked off without really doing much damage. Does go into cover mode there to take less damage. Does have a number of Uhlans down on the bottom here dealing with the cav, but the presence of these Musks gives LordRaphael a really safe sort of a way to keep it, just to be safe. These are really strong against Dops or anything surprising. Lots of units still in the base here. Tabben not able to clean it up.
Yeah, and now with the last of these Uhlans being cleaned up, Tabben's in a really rough spot. Not able to gather resources, not really able to train a lot of units, although he does get another batch of Doppelsoldners to come out, but Ant-Infantry is not really what you want against Musketeers. Might be enough to force the units back for the moment, and also going to get a lucky pick on that Hussar, but yeah, going to be GG from that game. And that's just a situation that you don't want to be in as Germany. France is a lot stronger in the colonial age than Germany is, and yeah, they just really want to be up to the fortress so they can abuse their stronger shipments, but good job on Raphael with the trap with the Hussars and the pikemen.
Yeah, that was really nice from... I love the pikeman choice there. I mean, it paid off. I guess he saw Raphael... Well, I don't know if he necessarily had seen Tabben making those extra Uhlans, right? They sort of arrived in the base just as the pikes went off, but a good read, if so, because...
Well,
Tabben didn't go up to the Fortress Age, but he instead made tons of extra cavalry, and the pikemen sort of come out, and that's a really good for them to be on the board at that point.
Well, even if Tabben doesn't make more than one batch of cavalry, their pikemen are still going to be useful because you can either use it to do timing in your opponent's space while he's aging up, potentially kill some houses and stuff like that, or maybe at the military buildings, or you can even just use it to siege down the trading posts, which is also going to be pretty big as Germany needs a lot more experience for their shipments than other civs do. So losing those trading posts in the Fortress Age can be a pretty big blow. So either way, pikemen are pretty good against Germany in general, I guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and just making some anyway is sort of a good choice. Damn, I play a lot of France, and I always struggle with Germany, and this has been a really interesting game to watch, but looks like we've had a series of very fast games today. Let's take a look at the post-game. Let's go straight to, I guess, all resources gathered. France is ahead, a lot of that game there. Villager count, we expect... Okay, France slightly ahead. I'm not really sure what I'm looking for, but you can see that sort of fight in where he got trapped. Didn't go so well for him. And then again in his base, Doppelsodners popping and the Minutemen dying and all these things. Tabben losing a lot of units there, and France coming out on top. But let's head on out into the next game. Here you can see the civilization selection screen, and we'll take a look at what civilizations that they have in just a moment. To BH, Wicked Cossack saying, if someone had just fast age, they would have this. I'm not sure. I can't read.
I think what he's trying to say, if someone had gone for an earlier age up instead of doing this sort of long, drawn out semi-FF sort of playstyle, like lately, most people will just send their villagers, they'll send their wood shipment, they'll add some more units, they'll add even more units, and then they'll finally send 700 gold and age up. But I think what Wicked Cossack is saying is that if someone had sent 700 gold second, they could have just avoided that whole situation and just been in a better position as a result of getting up to the Fortress Age more quickly. Of course, that is a little bit risky if your opponent goes for like an all-in rush or something sometimes, but it can be quite strong as well, especially if you're going to do sort of this slower type of semi from time to time.
Yeah, but... ultimately, at the end of the day, no one aging up fast, and Raphael picking up the game by sort of, well, not necessarily forcing it to stay colonial, but that is what happened. Up next will be Fertile Crescent, and LordRaphael will pick first. he is elected to go with the Sioux. Let's take a look at the lobby. Oh, and Tabben taking France and greening in immediately. So, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the Sioux will be played, but Tabben very confident on what civilization he wants to play against this. So get your bets ready. They will be starting very, very soon. The matchup is LordRaphael playing the Sioux and Tabben playing the French, which he picked very quickly when he saw that Sioux pick. So must be very confident. Bear that in mind when making your bets. But spawning in the top of the map in the color red, we do indeed have the Raphael. Or the Raphael, but I affectionately call him Raphael. Everyone, you have now been given 100 points, but you have 3 minutes to get your bets in. So maybe take your time, have a think, and bear in mind that you can look at the sort of opening of the game and what happens before you place your bets. But do not leave it to the last second, since the stream has about 5-second delay, and that timer, if it expires to 0, it's not going to register your vote. So bear that in mind. But on the bottom of the map here, France going to start with 100 wood. I'm quite interested to see how he'll play this then. He might go for a market, he might go for a trading post even, but it's sort of harder to do either with only 100 wood there. Well, it's probably going to come down to the treasures he finds. Coming across 50 wood, but actually LordRaphael with the Sioux Explorer going to grab that there. Currently, no villagers tasked to wood, so France probably going to forgo the market, which is fine, and perhaps he'll get up a bit sooner because of that, which might also be helpful against Sioux. We'll see, but looks like a bit of explorer combat already happening here. That Warchi very, very fast, but with the scout nearby, he doesn't really want to stay in combat, especially with his negative multiplier against explorers. Perhaps just going to run around and get some treasure collecting done. But yes, here we have Tabben, Raphael, in the top of the map. As I said earlier, he's elected to go with a TP, but all vills on wood and will be, food, and will be going up to the next stage. Let's take a look around and see what treasures they will come across. This is really nice. Tabben going to find himself 90 wood there in the bottom. It looks like 65 coin for LordRaphael. 1 minute now on the clock. So both players going to be treasuring and no one contending with each other. But I think Raphael so far slightly ahead in terms of age 1. This treasure you have to take a lot of HP to deal with, but 90 wood is very, very strong. But again, this war chief very, very fast and very, very effective at getting treasures. Looks like Tabben Mito is favored to win this according to the chat with 63% of the vote.
So the chat doesn't have faith in Raphael's Sioux, I suppose, off of that earlier performance. And, I mean, France is another one of those civs, like Japan, that Tabben played against Sioux earlier, that's sort of considered be a little bit of a counter to Sioux. Partially because of those coureurs de bois, the stronger villagers, makes it a lot easier to deal with the Sioux raids and stuff like that. And you can be a little bit more mobile with your villagers in your army. That native scout trying to do a little bit of a dance to avoid dying.
He did it. He got away. Oh, wow. That was quite impressive, actually. And it looks like
Raphael,
Go on.
I was just going to say, Raphael could definitely have chosen to kill the scout if he really wanted to, but I think he thought that it was just better to go for the treasure, make sure that Tabben wasn't going to come up and take that from under his nose before he could kill the scout.
Yeah, perhaps didn't know exactly where Tabben's Explorer was or something like that. But Mito, the bets are closed, and for sure, looks like 60% to Tabben, 40 to Raphael. So still a close matchup of bets, but
there's
Tabben
one
favored.
other thing to remember, too, that at this point, everyone's going to be betting, they're going to be betting on what they need to happen if they want to win the betting at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So maybe everybody thinks Raphael's going to win, but they're hoping Tabben will win.
I see.
Get back into the betting.
That's a good point, actually. When it's on match point, Raphael, if he wins this game as the Sioux, he wins the series and picks himself up the $100 prize. But you are right. If you want to win the $40 Steam game, at this point, you do have to go all in, right? Because you sort of need to get ahead.
Exactly,
it's, with so many other people competing, you do have to take those risks here. But let's get into the game. Looks like the age-ups are in Tabben, playing as the French, going up with the Quartermaster. Nothing unusual there, and getting his market during transition here. Hunting Dogs now coming in, and this Explorer positioning himself to build a trading post. Similarly, LordRaphael also building a trading post on this side of the map. I kind of love how the Explorer just sort of stands there and does nothing and erects a trading post. I swear he normally has a hammer and does something, but here today, apparently, the power of just thinking about building building a trading post will erect it out of the ground. But yes, that's right. Lord Raphael will be going up with the chief for 400 wood as well.
Yep, so pretty standard starts for both players here.
Well, yep.
I want to see if anyone goes for Stagecoach on these TP lines, because there is 2 separate TP lines, and no one ended up blocking the other person or anything like that, so it's definitely an option available to either player to sort of get an economic lead, or to mitigate the advantage of the other person's Stagecoach line or something like that, I guess. But, I imagine someone will go for it for sure. Stable going to go up in Raphael's base. Pretty standard stuff. No forward base from Tabben either, so he's probably going to be going pretty defensive, maybe with musketeers or something like that, just to defend his villagers, and then maybe go up to fortress or go for some sort of colonial timing while the Sioux is trying to get up to fortress himself. So we'll see how that plays out. 700 wood coming down for Tabben as his first shipment. So he is going to be going for that second TP and that stagecoach on those trading posts. And getting these trading posts as well is really nice on this map, especially against Sioux, because it's going to give you a lot of vision of those sort of backdoor raiding spots. If any like cavalry try to run past there to raid you in the back there, you'll make sure that you see them pathing through there unless they're very careful to avoid your line of sight. So that's going to be just an extra bonus to also helping out his economy.
Yeah, that's good. That is true. And also, they're sort of harder to kill. I feel like on Fertile Crescent, Stagecoach is just a safer thing in general because their trading posts are positioned sort of at the edge of each side of the map. So if you want to kill them both, you do have to travel a very long distance to do that. But looks like Musketeers now coming out for Lord Raphael. Let's switch over to units in queue. We do see Bow Rider coming from the Sioux player up in the top. They have now hit the board. But similarly, trading post also being constructed. This time he's decided that the hammer is quite useful, and yes, Hamuel, that was a pretty good quote. Just thinking about it will erect it out of the ground. I now realize that was not the best use of words, but yeah, that is the case. Yeah, you're now getting it as well. Taunt 8, I need wood, or I have extra wood. Yes, I've said a number of questionable things, haven't I? But also getting a trading post, and Lord Raphael will be going with 700 wood as well after his 5 villager shipment here. So learning from his mistake in the previous game, or perhaps, or at least getting his 5 villagers this time.
Yep, and starting with Bow Riders instead of Axe Riders, just a little bit safer. I don't think he did a whole lot of scouting in Transition or early Colonial, so he wasn't quite sure what Tabben was doing. And the Bow Riders are just going to give him a lot of safety against potential rushes or timings and stuff like that. And, I mean, you can kind of anticipate that France is probably going to go for Musketeers or something anyway, so Axe Riders maybe not going to be super useful either. And there are some units in the middle of the map there, it looks like. A handful of crossbows and musketeers out for Tabben. This is a little bit risky. If there were axe riders out, might not be enough musketeers there, but thankfully for him, there are bow riders, and he does have a good read with those crossbows being mixed in on the fact that there are likely bow riders out.
And he's going to see it now with his scout.
Yeah, he's going to confirm that for sure. But Raphael keeping some of them hidden, so just making out to look as if he has less units than he actually does. Would maybe try to bait him into a timing that's maybe not as favorable for him as he would like it to be or something. But Tabben not going to be going for that. Tabben is actually aging up to Fortress. Yeah, going to be going for probably some kind of skirm goon composition against this.
Yeah, safely up to the next stage, and I guess a couple of units just to see what happens in that colonial, also defend against raids. But hunts are now sort of running out. There is one villager astray over here. The bow riders are going to find it. It's going to take them a long time to kill it since Carrera de Bois, very, very tanky, especially great coats resisting 40% of all range damage. So bow riders... they're going to take a while to kill them, though most ranged cavalry have a negative multiplier against vills, not bow riders though, by the looks of it, so that's good for them. But he is now up to the fortress age, and it looks like Tabben up unpunished and has not lost any units for it, has almost all of his villagers, still has Hunt sort of nearby, and is going to be in a fine position with his stagecoach. But similarly, Lord Raphael is also in a fine spot too. He's going up with the wise woman, it looks like, aging the messenger politician, since that is aging very, very quickly, and he also has a stagecoach. So in terms of economy, dead on.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the moment, very, very close for sure. However, if Raphael ends up having to leave his base, what did he age with? Actually, did he age quickly or did he age slowly?
Which one?
Raphael, what did he age with the fortress?
Yeah, he went with the fast age.
Okay, so he's gonna have to leave his base for resources pretty soon, and once that happens, those TPs inside his base aren't going to give him the economic aura that they are currently giving, so his economy will be a little bit further behind than it is currently represented on the little statistic thing there.
Yeah, I really like how active Lord Raphael is being with these units. He's not found any villagers to kill, but he has been searching all over the map, right? And he's still doing so with these units. They're sort of moving. But Elite Bow Rider now in, and he is up to the Fortress Age as well. We're starting to see Wakinas come out, 5 trained, 9 shipped there, and he is now sort of moving out with the techie units, so to speak. But Tabben electing to go with 1,000 wood as his first shipment there, and as a result, just going to have a ton of extra stuff, right? Looks like we're having I really like this. The 1,000 wood going to be used to get away with an extra outpost on top of these hunts, and that's something really valuable against the Sioux. I think certainly myself, but a lot of players will always sort of underestimate or not prepare for raids as thoroughly as should be done. But Tabben going to play it very safe, put down an outpost, and with that wood, he's going to build lots of housing. He's got all his upgrades, including amalgamation, so a really solid economy here. Electing to go with amalgamation, that really is a choice players will make. Sometimes it's just not worth doing. Might lose. No, he's going to spot the villager here. The house is going to see that come in, and has the units needed to defend against the houses, or to protect his houses, so to speak. Going to be a bit of a skirmish in the middle of the map here. The crossbows, those colonial units, a little bit awkward since they can be picked off at range. But are being mixed into the same unit group here. More skirmishes coming in. Lord Raphael does have a slight skirmisher lead, it looks like. But actually 5 more coming in behind this. That's a lot of bow riders coming
and
in.
some axe riders being mixed in too. And there's definitely a slight advantage for Raphael in this fight here. Could call Minutemen, though, to help even the odds a little bit. Musketeers throwing into melee combat against the axe riders, but there's not enough of them to really make a big difference there. I think he'll be okay with the Minutemen here. Yeah, Raphael going to be forced to retreat.
And there's a lot of CDBs nearby as well, which are going to help him fight should he really felt the need to sort of pull them in. The Axe Riders, though, they are going to pick one up sort of over there, but now the Goons and Skirms sort of rushing forward. No, I don't think he got it in the end. Didn't want to commit to taking too much fire from those Dragoons. Just a bit of a skirmish in the middle of the map here. And Lord Raphael, it's hard to look at... I'd like to see an all resources gathered graph. I wonder if there actually is one, but whatever the case, Tabben is ahead slightly on villagers, and since he's got steel traps and amalgamation, he's probably got a much stronger economy overall, since, of course, the Sioux, they don't get steel traps, and he also, these TPs not going to be as effective now that the villagers are going to have to sort of leave their base to gather resources. It looks like a war hut going to go up over here. Both players really respecting the potential for raiding. These Minutemen going down in the middle of the map.
Although, Tabben, not making the best use of that 1,000 wood he sent earlier. Still sitting on 800 wood. Only 600 now, actually, sorry. But, yeah, not investing that super well. Could have had some more units, maybe, at this point instead. And at this point, I mean, there's not a whole lot more he could really invest that wood into when he's taking these trades. He doesn't need to make houses. He's building a second barracks now to try and make some use of it, but for the most part, not being super useful. Yeah,
there's a lot of wood. Perhaps he was anticipating being able to build more houses with it, because, the Sioux came in quite early, right? And they started taking fights. A lot of units have died, so it's freed up a lot of population. But if both players had played more passively, that wood would have been really, really valuable, as he would need to keep expanding his population room with the wood. But here, yeah, you're right, 600 wood. It's like half a shipment not really sort of being used here. Bit of a skirmish in the middle of the map. Does lose those houses. Can replace them quite easily with his wood, but not an ideal thing, but it's not going to be too effective against him, it's not going to stop him too much at this point. Let's take a look at the military units tab. LordRaphael, 27 Wakina rifles. Tabben on 18 skirmishes. So, looks like Raphael is ahead in terms of the skirmisher count, which is very relevant at this point in time, but it doesn't look like Tabben needs to be leaving his base just yet, so has time to catch up and is quite safe at the moment because of all the resources in his base. Doesn't have to leave. Okay, a bit of a skirmish coming forward here. 28 skirmishes, 32 Wakina. Fairly even fight here.
Some of those Wakina might not actually be there as well, so this is actually a pretty good fight for Tabben. And we have to remember, too, that France does have the option for Falconets to sort of deal with the skirmishers, so he doesn't necessarily have to have the larger skirmisher mass once those Falconets come in. And, yeah, I don't know, this is suddenly looking not so bad for Tabben. The military mass is just a little bit underwhelming for Sioux, it feels like. With the Falconets coming in now, and not a lot of cavalry out for Raphael at the moment, sending combat instead of some units as well is also just... It feels like he doesn't really have a lot on the field that can really deal with the Falconets effectively, and so most of his units invested into the Wakina here are just not going to be very useful in the next couple of minutes here.
Yeah, it seems a little awkward. Falconets now in position, and now the Wakina really do sort of have to get out of here. They do take some shots at the Dragoons, being a little bit far forward, but they're getting them back to safety. And now Tabben just going to sort of slowly roll these cannons forward, actually going to pack them up, going to limber them up, and we are going to travel back. Okay, he feels like, I don't want to push just yet. I feel like I've probably got an economic advantage.
Yeah, well, you have to remember, too, that we're at the 15-minute mark, and this is sort of around the time when that dog soldier big button starts becoming a little bit of a threat. And Raphael does sort of have a lot of food saved up, so he definitely could call it if he needs it. And it's probably better for France maybe to just sit back for another minute or two. He has time before that big button really becomes more valuable. Around, I think, 18 minutes is when he gets another dog soldier from that big button. So before that happens, he can sort of sit back a little bit, maybe mass up a little bit more, and then try to push in before that timing gets even stronger. But
yeah, and I think it looks like he's coming in now. Dragoon's coming forward. The Falcons, they know they're in danger, so going back a little. You are right, and I think that's what he's intending to... Let's take a look at text being researched there. Is it coming in? I don't know. But he has sent cavalry combat, as you mentioned, and that might be well gearing up for that soldier big button. Okay, it looks like we are going to see a fight, but it is... Tabben is prepared for this. He's got a lot of Dragoons here, and cavalry combat has come in as well. The Dragoons trying to find themselves fighting the dog soldiers since they're all on top of the skirms here, but that's a lot of French units. Cannons have gone down, but LordRaphael paid for that. He had to focus them, and whilst taking all this damage, and it looks like Tabben is coming out decisively ahead in this fight.
Yeah, definitely looking very good for him. Only Wakina left behind this, and I don't think there's enough of them, and yeah, I'm not sure what the follow-up is for Sioux after this fight here. Tabben may be being a little bit cautious with his Dragoons. He should probably commit those to the fight. War Chief being danced back as well. And yeah, with the Goons finally committing to the fight a little bit, it's going to go a little bit more this way,
he's still concerned. Like, I mean, obviously, this is what you would usually do. You don't want your goons being shot at by Wakina. They're there for the sole purpose of, like, protecting your skirms from any cav that rock up, and the skirms are always going to try and shoot your dragoons if they can. But here, when he's dealt with all the cavalry, the big cavalry button pop as well, there aren't any more cavalry left. He can probably just trade off some of the dragoons to make sure he can deal with this skirmisher army. But LordRaphael, he's coming out. He's doing quite well with the remaining units here, simply because the goons don't want to sort of commit to a fight, but still, France definitely in the lead in terms of military. Rifle riders now coming across the map. Looks like LordRaphael going to get back here. Let's take a look at the hunts and see that situation. Still a safe hunt for Tabben in the back of his base here. LordRaphael starting to get a bit more exposed, coming away from that war hut that he placed down on the trading route. And this may well be in sight. I don't know. I think it's not quite in sight of the trading post, but he will be able to see the dead animals and click on them and see the food going down. And it looks like that may well be where those dragoons know they've stopped there. But he could head up to this location And that would be a real trouble for Lord Raphael then. He's got no more safe food in his base other than the berries, which he is actually gathering from. There is some hunt down here. This villager, this CDB, going to find a few villagers. But yeah, the Dragoons heading up to the top here, going to force these villagers away.
Yeah, and this is a big blow for Sioux. He is going to be able to garrison that war hut and be relatively safe for the time being. But yeah, Tabben just playing very slowly, very carefully. Wants to make sure he doesn't throw away his lead after winning that fight. But I wonder if, like, the game could have been over already, right? If he fought with those Dragoons, which is just sort of a matter of time at this point. But he might end up actually giving Sioux too much time here if he ends up getting run around, chasing these units and getting vills idled and stuff like that. But I think he should be okay. It's pretty difficult at this point once that dog soldier timing fails and France sort of has established their economy. It's pretty hard for Sioux to get back into the game, but that being said, he's going to lose all of these skirmishers, a little bit out of position with the army on the other side of the map, but Tabben going to do a little bit of a counter push. Try and get some damage done on the other side of the map.
No villagers in this war hut, but there are villagers in this outpost, and there's a lot of military here. I think all those CDBs are going to go down, and Lord Raphael might find himself picking up a few... Oh, they must have escaped. Okay, well, that's good. So Tabben not going to lose those villages, but skirmishers rallying in with these CDBs, and this is not ideal. Does notice it, going to pull them away. Let's check up the top of the map here. Is going to take down that war hut. There are villagers on the mine there. Is going to kill them. Deny these two TPs from being effective as well. I wonder with his army here if he'll siege down this trading post whilst he's here. Could be an opportunity to build it himself and get that stagecoach resources. But lots of units, lots of red units in Tabben's base. The houses could be vulnerable. Doesn't look like Tabben is going to shoot a villager there. Lord Raphael.
Yeah, it feels like Tabben is falling apart a little bit. But he still has the military advantage. I mean, this is a huge mass of units. Despite having lost the skirmishers and stuff like that, Raphael's not going to want to take a straight-up fight for sure.
Yeah, and ranged infantry coming in. Surprised that's not wilderness warfare. Let's check his deck and see if that is in there. Going to go with ranged infantry attack, perhaps valuing attack over the 20% hit points to the skirmisher and the CDBs there. How do you feel about that? I guess kind of makes sense. Attack is, at this point, perhaps more valuable with such large masses of units.
Well, I think just in general, for ranged units, you probably want damage as opposed to HP. Just because your ranged units are almost always going to be dealing damage, but they're not always going to be taking damage. For melee units, it's the other way around. They're not always going to be dealing damage in fights, right? But they are sometimes going to be, running back and forth and like taking damage and stuff like that. So a little bit of lag, but yeah, I think that's sort of the rationale behind choosing skirmisher attack over skirmisher HP at this point.
Yeah, just going to wait for this sort of lag to pass before we continue. Maybe someone at home, their internet connection is being used to upload, I don't know, some video to Facebook, and all of a sudden your internet spikes for a brief moment and causes a brief moment of lag. Could be someone else in either Lord Raphael's house or Tabben's house, or perhaps even us at the studio. I don't know if that's something we should consider. Actually, we have two internet connections, so maybe on one of our days where we improve the studio, we can put the stream on a separate connection, because that's probably important for a bunch of different reasons, including lag, maybe? I don't know, is the question. But we've now unpaused. We'll see if it has passed. Looks like, though, these villagers are going to take a few shots here. And now Tabben on this side of the map here. His villagers, though, unprotected. They do have an outpost, but these two axe riders possibly going to cause a few issues. The villagers, though, have strong attacks, so can deal with that. Back in the main fight here. Let's check on the military units tab. 30 skirms to 32 Wakina. There is a skirmisher advantage for the Sioux player, but with all of these, okay, now we're seeing the tech switch into Cuirassiers. He does have cav combat here, and I think at this point, I'd really like to see cavalry cuirass and ranged cavalry caracol from the arsenal. Those upgrades are going to be quite nice. I wonder if Tabben will put down a arsenal very soon. No villagers on wood just yet, so can't afford it. It's very expensive, but perhaps can rebuild his, and probably going to be rebuilding his trading post sooner than making an arsenal, but can task the trading post for wood for sure. Looks like the army not really sure it wants to go, Maito. It's sort of deciding.
Yeah, I think he wants to wait for a larger mass of cuirassiers, just to make sure that he really has a really solid 3-unit composition, and Sioux will have a really hard time dealing with that. He's sort of seen Raphael's army a couple of times, so he knows what to expect from the army there, and he knows it's not super large at the moment. So if he gets that cure mass up, it's going to be really, really, really difficult for Raphael to deal with. So
many French military now. Look, 115 to 84. This is just a waiting game. Tabben playing very, very safe, but LordRaphael doing being very effective, using the fast-moving units, being on all sides of the map. Tabben was down here and had to run all the way down, and now he's having to run all the way back again, and these villagers being denied gathering for a considerable length of time. They are now getting back to work, but LordRaphael really pushing Tabben around the map, and did some lasting damage. This stagecoach has been destroyed and not able to rebuild it just yet. I'd really like to see walls coming out at this point in the game as well. I feel like cutting off choke points is going to give you a bit more time to react, to get your units in position, that kind of thing.
But I would really like for players to remember that the Sufi exists.
Let's talk about the Sufi. Let's have a look at the upgrades here. So, delivers 12 fattened goats. That's why you're saying we need to remember it exists, because 12 fattened goats is a lot of food, fully fattened. You can just start gathering them up. The other upgrades, basically this one, Eco Theory, just for 200 wood and 200 gold. And finally, the Sharia, but not going to be helpful until they reach their villager build limits. But that's a lot of food on offer, that is true.
Yeah, it would be very helpful at this point in the game for either player. But unfortunately, I don't think they're aware of it, so we're likely to see mills instead at some point, or if they're just going to continue gathering from berries. But this could potentially be the fight. Kira's going to be getting in onto the Wakina. There's some TPs here to help bolster the Sioux army a little bit, but I think there's just too much French here, potentially, to deal with this. War Dance coming out from Raphael as well to try and make these units a little bit stronger. Well, actually, everything being said, it's actually not going that bad for Sioux at the moment. Well, looking at the military population.
Yeah, but Sioux does have that Wakina card in, right? 18.
And Phil's coming in.
Just to help with the fight. Yeah, there's a lot of French stuff here. Those TPs are adding a bit of extra advantage to the units there, but there's a lot of French stuff, and this could be the end. Having to pull in the vills just to soak up damage, to give the red units a bit more firing time, so to speak. Dragoon mass is very, very low for Tabben, but he does have a lot of Dragoons, a couple more Cuirassiers, or 3 Cuirassiers now coming in. And that looks like the back lines, the ranged cavalry, so to speak, that deal with the cavalry. Not really any left, although that's not going to matter too much now since there aren't any cavalry here. This has been a really good fight for LordRaphael, despite being so outnumbered. He's actually performed very well.
Yeah, and it's gone better for him. And again, Tabben just being so careful with the Dragoons, when I feel like he really doesn't need to be as careful with them.
His Vill's coming in
into the fight now too. And yeah, it feels like he really could just be ramming the advantage home. Military population is down to like 15 Wakina.
Yeah.
Now he's still not fighting with the Dragoons, so Raphael will be able to escape with the Wakina behind.
No! Dragoons are counted by Wakina. I will not use them. I will not, is what he is thinking in his mind. But look at that score difference now, and look at the eco difference as well. 55 villager population recalculated there, meaning France decisively in the lead. And a big score boost to match. LordRaphael, he's saying GG, knows he can't play it from here. And that is going to be the end of the game number 6. And Tabben bringing it back up. This is not over. This is a very close series, or it's getting closer. LordRaphael was on match point, does not pick up the victory. And let's read out the stream, the amounts of points we've got here. Empire Earth, followed by Nestau, then Jack, then the Jazz And then finally, Vividly Plain, still in first place by far and away the most points, 13,300 points. And second place only has 1,500. So I think a lot of people lost a lot of points on that. Holy shit, pardon me, that's insane, Vividly Plain. I don't think he can be catched now. I think, Maito, what must have happened is a lot of people lost a lot of points there on expecting the LordRaphael outcome, but Vividly Plain coming in strong and is very much in the lead.
Yeah, that's going to be nice for him. Still a couple of games, you never know, he could go all in on the wrong outcome in this next game, but yeah, we'll see.
That's impressive. But let's take a look at the resources gathered here. You can see France, they get that early lead, they get steel traps, they get amalgamation, they have those market upgrades working for him, he gets the stagecoach, and as a result just climbs further and further, and this gap gets wider and wider over the course of the game. LordRaphael held on valiantly, did very well actually in the fights despite the military differentials, although that's largely because Tabben reluctant to fight with the Dragoons, but Tabben being very, very careful. We saw Outposts being very careful with the Dragoons, making sure he's not getting raided and not committing or not being out in silly places on the map, just making sure he can gather the safe food. And overall, Tabben plays it safe and wins the game and brings the score back to 4-3. Still LordRaphael in the lead. There is going to be another game, though. This shaping up to be a series. Let's take a look at the civilizations. Up next will be Pampas Sierras. Oh, baby. This is a non-trading post map. Let's take a look at the civilizations there. Germany looks like LordRaphael has won with Germany in Game 1, British in Game 3, India in Game 4, and France in Game 6 there. So he cannot play Germans, British, India, or France, which is... okay, so no British pick from LordRaphael. He can't play the British. He's already won with them, and British might be a civilization he could consider on Pampas Sierras. But Russia, I know, is, yes, a civ that LordRaphael is very strong with, and this map definitely allows him to play. Let's switch into the lobby. Just bear in mind, Tabben, he cannot play... I can't see the civilizations. When I say switch into the lobby, that means I also lose access to that information. But it doesn't matter, because Tabben, he does have to pick first. He's going with Russia, and it looks like we will probably see the Russian mirror. LordRaphael, that is one of his very strong civilizations in this map, definitely good for them. But Raphael, he gets to pick second. It is possible we see something else. Maybe Dutch. We'll have to wait and see. But Maito, what do you think? I don't know. LordRaphael, will he play a mirror? Like, he's got this counter matchup, which is probably why he hasn't picked Russia just yet. He might want to use that sort of matchup advantage he gets because he lost the previous game. But Russia's a strong civ for him and a strong civ on this map. But will he take the mirror? I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's a strong possibility that he picks the mirror. He could also pick Aztec. That's another civ that he likes to play, but I don't know how comfortable he is with them. I don't think he has a very good record with Aztec in tournaments, so I don't know. I think you're probably right. I'm kind of anticipating a Russian mirror. Although, that being said, I'm pretty sure that Raphael doesn't have the best record in Russian mirrors in tournaments either. I seem to remember him losing a couple of Russian mirrors. Who did he lose to? He lost a Russian mirror to Breeze Brothers, Age of Killer, and also to Goon Goon. He's lost a Russian mirror to me in a tournament before, so it might not be a matchup that he's super comfortable in either. So I guess I'm not really sure what he'll pick for certain.
That's really interesting, actually, because I'd expect him to go with Russia, but you're saying not the best record. And Aztecs, well, we all know LordRaphael, a very strong European civ player. Aztecs maybe something, as you said, also not the best record with. So this could be tough for him. I'm really anxious. I want to see the betting now. God, so many people have lost so many points. This is unbelievable. I cannot, the standings are just insane at this point. Vividly Plain so far ahead. But, oh God, I'll tell you what would be interesting. I don't know if we can do this now because this idea might have been too late. But when we announce the winner of the betting, I'd quite like to do a sort of match by match. So in game 1, who was winning? In game 2, after game 2, who was winning? After game 3, who was winning? I don't know if we necessarily have that information anymore. But in future, I'd like to sort of break that down. That sounds like something we could announce at sort of after the highlight reel or something. And yes, by the way, guys, stick around because, well, obviously, more games. We've not finished the series yet, and this could be very close with Raphael not really knowing what civilization to pick here. He's taking his time again, and this is another classic thing that Raphael has done in tournaments. But yes, after the series, we will be watching essentially the series again. We've collected a bunch of highlights, and we're going to see all of the best moments, all the best clips from these games on the couch. That will be after the series, so we get to go through that, and I really like that. I think it's really fun to relive the moments, and it's also perfect for the YouTube video because it means that can go at the end, and people won't really know when the final game will finish, or really when the series will finish. Here comes the Russia pick. It looks like Raphael has elected to go with Russia, but it took him a long time. Clearly not a confident pick. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going into game number 8 in this best of 9 series. The score is currently 4-3 in favor of Lord Raphael. Tabben, it was 4-2, but he picked up that previous victory and is now on 4-3, so bringing this series back. Although it is still match point for Lord Raphael. Let's see if he can take the series in the Russian mirror. Remember, everyone, not the best record with Russia mirrors, as Maito was saying, but Russia is a civ I know Lord Raphael is strong with, but we will see. Perhaps not in the mirror specifically then. Ladies and gentlemen, we are into the game. It is a 1 coin crate start. It will be. Both players will have that extra coin crate. Otherwise, the resources are mirrored there. But the Russian mirror on Pampas. Okay, this is really interesting. Let's see what they do with their explorers there. So Lord Raphael going to be sending his over to the llamas, and I expect to see Tabben do that as well. Actually going to crack shot 40 food on the way there before getting to the llamas, but this map, the thing to consider is that the llamas all spawn in the Pampian Mountains to the west here, and both players will be racing over there, but only 1 scout each. Neither player interested in the treasures, so let's see how they do on the llamas. That's going to be an important part in who wins this age 1, so to speak. But looks like Tabben off to getting 2 llamas, but Lord Raphael going to even that up with a 3rd one. Comes across a nearly mature wolf pup, but not interested in that right now. Going to keep his llamas nearby the explorer. Just going to scout around with the explorer, but everywhere the llama goes, the scout will surely follow because he must keep them safe. He cannot risk his opponent sort of stealing them, perhaps, so he's going to do that. But having said that, there aren't any other scouts, so don't need to be too careful on this map because, you know, against Dutch or France or someone with an extra scout, maybe this is more important. But such is the way of things. All the llamas have now been hoovered up, and it looks like Tabben will take a slight lead with 4 llamas to 3. And now up next will be the treasure part of this Age 1.
Yep, not a whole lot to say here. Raphael a little bit behind in llamas, but he'll find that last one at some point here.
Oh, yes, it's down here. Pardon me, I didn't see it was taken. Okay,
yeah.
so he'll get... It's not that Tabben's ahead, it's that he hasn't finally gotten that. But let's take a look at the treasures, shall we, might say? Because, okay, coming back, looks like, you know, Tabben did use his crack shot earlier, so getting more efficiency out of that, picking up 40 XP, not overly useful, but why not pick it up there? It's not too bad of a treasure to grab. And now going to come on to sort of the eastern side here, where we have the native scout there. 90 food that he might come across as well, and this is a bigger 135 wood treasure just there. Looks like Lord Raphael has found his last llama, but he hasn't done any treasuring just yet. This is quite a good treasure in the back of his base, 75 wood. I think he'll be pleased with that, but certainly Tabben has gotten out on the map a lot sooner and is going to start gathering them up a bit sooner, but this is a really safe treasure to be getting in the back here that he can work on, sort of 75 wood there, so to speak. Let's switch on over to shipments sent, and we'll see distributivism come in any second now there. Tabben getting that in first, possibly that 40 XP being quite helpful. I'm not sure if that's the case though, since who knows when it was sent, but either way, Lord Raphael hasn't sent it just yet, so this is I think slightly Tabben favoured, given that he is now out on the map, but it is only Age 1.
Yep, and looks like both players having a little bit of idle time with their early game, which is pretty normal. as Russia, you tend to not be able to age up immediately after the 14th Vil pops unless you've got some really good treasures. So nothing too unusual there. Both players going up with 14 Vils, going to be gathering up for their blockhouse most likely. So what's going to be important to note is whether both players actually choose to forward base with this blockhouse. And if they do, could be a very quick and explosive game. But you don't necessarily have to forward base. Yeah, we'll just have to see if we see any forward villagers coming out soon. Potentially, if someone really wants to, they could try some cheese with natives, but I don't anticipate that we'll see that. Okay, yeah, 3 forward villagers for Raphael coming across the map. So he's definitely going to be going for a forward base, but nothing from Tabben just yet.
Both players going up with the quartermaster. So we saw previously that, but the scout is nearby these sheep. You might be able to... Yes, he does. He picks one up. He's still in stealth mode, moving very slowly. Going to delete those, so not interested in getting them back. Probably, maybe he doesn't want to alert his opponent to the presence of the scout. I don't know. Either way, isn't going to concentrate on the sheep right now. Perhaps doesn't think he can get it all the way home safely without his opponent maybe taking it. Not sure where the Red Explorer might be, so can't risk that there. But the scout is on the map there. But yes, as you said, forward blockhouse going down. No Philosopher Prince. Both players going to go with, as you mentioned, the... Wait, you didn't mention it at all. Both players going to go up with 400 wood. But as you mentioned, a forward blockhouse coming down there. LordRaphael going to be aggressive. Tabben having a defensive in-base blockhouse. But I really like his hunts, right? He's got 2 nice and safe here, and a third one that he's sort of bringing in there as well, and has built a market sort of in the corner here, which is going to give him a bit of extra line of sight should any sort of raids come down. So liking that position. Hunts for LordRaphael, quite similar story here. Looks like he he decided the market should go up on the other side, so they're going to have that a bit closer. But looks like the only key difference here is a very aggressive forward blockhouse. Scout now coming in to see what is available there, but we'll switch over to units in queue and see what they are training. Looks like Tabben are going to be going with defensive strelets, and LordRaphael has no units in queue just yet. 5 musks now just queued, and a second blockhouse going to be going down off of this 700 wood that he sent, and also Tabben sending 700 as well. Also going to build a second defensive blockhouse in his base there. But Raphael being aggressive, Tabben being defensive, but otherwise mirror builds, except the strelets and the muskets, I suppose. But
yeah,
this is interesting.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because normally Russian players will almost always open with that 5 Cossack shipment, right? Just because it's such a solid shipment. It lets you get a lot of pressure down and lets you scout what your opponent's up to. And part of the reason you wouldn't want to forward base in this matchup is so you could do sort of a greedier build with 700 wood first, like Tabben's doing. And if you are doing a forward base, you normally want to open up with units because otherwise your opponent could just rush you and you lose your forward base. But Raphael getting a really good read on what Tabben's doing, so he's just going to do the exact same thing as Tabben, but with a forward base, which just gives him more control over the map, more pressure in general. So I really like the way that Raphael's playing this so far. And 700 coin coming out for Tabben next. I imagine Raphael will also have 700 coin coming in soon. And that's basically just going to help bolster the production of Cossacks behind this.
Yeah, it looks like Scout now coming in, sees the Strelets, wants to confirm what unit is being made. But not going to be able to poke in too far. And it looks like Tabben will pursue these this Explorer. This is kind of risky, right? Because you don't know what they could have shipped, possibly 5. I guess he's got a Scout, actually, so he knows for sure that... actually, having said that, this wasn't so risky, I suppose, actually. He hadn't seen any cav from this stable, and probably deduced that 5 Cossacks was not arriving because the stable went down and a second blockhouse and things like that. But 5 Cossacks have now been trained from LordRaphael. They are now on the board. Looks like they are going to find this low HP scout, but not before he picks up the nearly mature puppy. Buck the tame wolf, though, not long for this world. But at least it is denied from his opponent, I suppose.
Fortunately, he goes down immediately after finding his new master.
Rip Doggo Frankazy in the chat.
Is that a second stable going down for Raphael?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so this is something that Raphael does a lot with Russia. Just because Cossacks are so strong and so cost-effective compared to the other units, especially once you get cards like Boyars and Cav HP in, Doing double stable on the Cossacks can really give you a big advantage, just because you can get so many of those super strong units out all at once. It is potentially going to mean that he's going to have slightly less units for a little while, because he's going to need to build more houses and stuff like that. But I really like the decision to make the second stable, at least against what Tabben is doing, because Tabben seems to have a really large, massive Strelets, and Cossacks are going to be very effective against that.
Yeah, he sees the second stable, though, so he's going to know about it. That is something that Tabben will bear in mind, so to speak. But mirror builds so far. 5 Cossacks now coming from both players. Tabben slightly ahead in the shipment curve, but only slightly. LordRaphael. Okay, let's step back a moment. This is a mirror game. Villagers are on the same levels, both 28 each. Both have all of the market upgrades, although placer mines, pardon me, greatcoats. Yes, the greatcoats upgrade now coming in for Tabben. Being on the defensive side, that's probably more important than it is for LordRaphael. But both players staying back. Not a lot of aggression here. This is a very important game in this series. Both players not taking any risks. Both players keeping their units back until they absolutely can be certain that the fight will be something that they can win.
Yeah,
but,
well, I mean, Raphael doesn't really have any reason to push, right? He's got
I was going to say.
Map. Okay, go on.
Go ahead. That's exactly the point I was going to make.
Yeah, I was going to say, Raphael doesn't really have any incentive to push in the mirror. The only reason he would ever really want to push into Tabben's base is if Tabben was going for some sort of, like, age up or something, right? Which you almost would never see from Russia, so he's probably just thinking, like, okay, I can sit back and wait, and Tabben's eventually going to have to leave for food or coin or something, and when he does that, he's going to have to fight on top of my buildings, where my reinforcement time is better, where I'm going to be more prepared. And in the meantime, Raphael just has complete control over the map. He can just move his villagers freely wherever he likes. I really like the decision to just send one Cossack out as well, just to see where the army is and stuff like that. Is keeping the Cossacks back, just keeping them hidden, and can also just pull them to safety if he really needs to. And it's also sort of just keeping tabs on how Tabben's resource situation is.
He's keeping a Tabben on it, is he?
He's indeed keeping a Tabben on the Tabben's resources.
4 heads in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. But this is very sort of a waiting game. But you can see Tabben's hunts have now run out. These ones very hard to gather from, being forced all the way back here. Villagers wanting to come out and build on this area, gather hunt and coin here. And that means Tabben now having to leave the safety of his base. And this is where things could get dicey for him.
Yeah, this is going to be a point of tension as soon as some more villagers move over here. Moving the Explorer in first. Just going to see exactly what's over here. Gets picked off, but only spots 1 villager, so he knows that Tabben's not super concerned about this place at the moment. He doesn't really need the resources just yet, but he knows he's going to need it soon, so he's going to stick around. Not going to commit to anything, but just going to make a little bit more difficult for Tabben to maybe come out and herd that hunt a little bit closer to him and stuff like that. As you can see, the animals already starting to wander away. But actually, Raphael going to be moving back towards the middle of the map. Maybe going to shift gears a little bit, having not spotted any villagers there. Going to try checking the other side of the base, see if there's anything he maybe would have missed, see if there's any vills trying to sneak out through the choke point or something like that. Damn. Or maybe since he saw the army over there, see if he can pick off some infrastructure like this forward blockhouse. And house and stuff like that, and looks like that is exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah, he knows this army is out here defending this food, sort of standing in that location, and as a result, yeah, he's just going to come in. This is exactly what you need to do in the mirror, get those sort of early plays, and LordRaphael being rewarded with how active he is on the map with the units, but does take the blockhouse, but that's a lot of Strelets here. Looks like we are going to see a fight. The Musketeers now coming forward to get into position.
Yeah, this is actually a really scary army from Tabben. Raphael might be in trouble.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. But the other Musks in range at the back, they're not got the best range, but they should be able to fight from over the top there. The Strelets on the front here, and once these Cossack army is gone, these Cossacks of the red player can come right down in and get on top of the Strelets. But to counter some of that, some of these Musks moving to the corner, and it looks like blue coming out on top.
Yeah, significantly. on top. And this is part of the problem with that double stable that Raphael went for, and that it got scouted and everything. Tabben transitioned into almost full musketeer, and there's almost nothing that those Cossacks can do. And the Strelets really didn't have an opportunity to attack the muskets either in that fight. The Strelets and the Cossacks were standing in front of them, so they were forced to fight on them. And, well, I mean, we say that, but then again, this reinforcing batch sort of allowing Raphael to keep control of this. And even if this fight goes mostly even or something, Raphael's probably still in an okay position just because he does have the pressure on the map. He does have the map control and the forward base and stuff like that. So he still has a couple of layers that Tabben has to get through before he can really effectively kill Raphael outright.
Yeah, and this is Russia in a nutshell. Just the units replacing each other as soon as they arrive. Which it's like there was like no units left for Raphael, and then suddenly they all came out. But Tabben coming out on top of the big fight, probably down to the musketeer production that you're saying. I had those two blockhouses. He scouted the two stables, which was with that native scout, and that intel was so valuable because it allowed him to switch into double musk production. Although his second blockhouse is now gone, and it sort of had perhaps some extra units. I think is what you were saying there. So a little bit of lag. It is lagging, which is a shame. But lots of red Strelets here. They are sort of trying to kite back. Doing well against the musketeers here. No cavalry to be seen just yet. A few Cossacks now entering the fray, but not enough to really make these Strelets too worried. There are some musks in the back here. Okay, first deviation in build order. I think at this point, it's less important what you go for, but mirror builds up until this final shipment here. 700 food coming in for LordRaphael. Often this is a good shipment just to fix any sort of miss macro. Maybe when you're fighting, your villagers have got the wrong quantity of villagers on something like that. Tabben, though, wanting 4 cavalry. Doesn't have 2 stables, so maybe wants some extra cav. There has no cav. Some Cossacks now coming in. That's 10 Cossacks. And now this is enough to be concerned with. The Cossacks find themselves in a good spot. Musks coming forward, zoning away the cavalry. Red Cossacks find themselves on top of the Strelets as well. Looks like LordRaphael doesn't want to take this fight anymore. He's going to leave the fight.
Yeah, he doesn't have quite enough units to take this, it looks like. Needs to wait for a little bit more reinforcements. He's got units in queue, but doesn't have any reinforcements coming behind this. So this is kind of do or die time for Raphael. If he can win this fight, hold on to the map control, he can start pressuring the Vils again. And that'll be when Tabben might be in a little bit of trouble, but this fight is looking...
This is looking quite good for Tabben, but there are 2 stables, and there's a cav in queue at each, so we could see a big Cossack batch. But I'm not sure how helpful that will be, given there are so many musketeers. But there it is, big Cossack batch coming out. Strelet's going to have to try and retreat, get back to the musketeers, which have that anti-cavalry damage. But I don't think it's enough. Cossacks of Tabben coming to find themselves near the Strelets. Villagers trying to get involved in this fight as well, using them to sponge. That they don't have great coats, so not going to be overly useful there. God, this is such a... like, just fighting all game long. Well, except for the first part. We'll ignore that. But these fights, now that they've gotten started, are just pretty much non-stop. But actually, it looks like LordRaphael has managed to push Tabben away there. Let's take a look at units lost, though. He lost 7 villages for that.
Yeah, and he's behind now by, what is that, 13 villagers? Discord's a little bit green,
10,
I can't actually tell.
10 villagers behind at the moment.
10 villagers, okay. Yeah, so that's a little bit rough for him. However, again, Tabben kind of forced to be gathering on the left side of the map here. The right side's almost completely locked down by the position of Raphael's base. So if the resources do run out on the left side here, he could be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, lots of... not very much food left. And given that these fights are sort of so even, is trying to put down a blockhouse, though. It might go up. Not a lot of food left here, but this is going to give him a little bit of extra help in this area. Does go up. And you are right, not a lot of food left. There's a mine and some hunt down here. But given that the fights are so even, Tabben is not going to be able to come into this location. It does belong... it's under the domain of LordRaphael's map control. And the only hunt left on the map is this one rear herd over here that LordRaphael has a couple of villagers on. But currently the action very far away from that. But it's going to come down to hunts very soon. Hunts starting to run out, and we might see that mill and plantation switch. So hunts are very valuable because mills and plantations are so expensive, Maito, and whoever really starts having to build those first is probably going to slow up on military and then lose the game. But we might get one of those rare games where it's so even and they both run out of hunts at the same time that the mill and plantation switch happens for both players simultaneously, though there is some Cossacks coming through the map of Tabben, but LordRaphael is slightly more, does get the snare, and now Tabben going to have to drop a unit back here. Small advantages. Is going to pull them away. There is an explorer shooting at these villages. Perhaps those cavalry wanting to go over there. They've changed their mind, staying still here in the middle of the map. But this is slightly Tabben favored in the score. But remember, Tabben quite far ahead on terms of villages. So, oh, hello. Let's go back over here. Didn't mean to click that. And it's starting to get some free unit kills here as well. Tabben, the longer this game goes, the better for him because he has more villagers and that will help. But villagers, if they can't gather from hunts, because there aren't any, maybe villagers don't matter. So, still a very close game. Trying to gather... Oh, there's another hunt here, but it's a bit awkward. It's hotly contested by these two players. Trying to herd it towards him. Gonna lose a few vills for this. Lots of trees, so it could be awkward to... No, gonna retreat.
Yeah, at some point in here, that villager lead is just not going to be as relevant while they try and switch to mills and plantations, just because they're not going to be able to train units until those mills are established. So, might be an opportunity for Raphael to get back in.
And Tabben having a hard time at the moment. Look at his food count. Like, pretty much all his vills on gold and stacking a lot of gold here. Tabben is struggling for food. But LordRaphael... He's still on food, right? He's still got reasonable food income. 17 vills collecting there. Looks like we might see a fight down in the bottom here. There are more military units for Tabben, but could be tough to get them into position with this gap. There's only a small entrance here. The Cossacks could find hard to get onto the Strelets, but looks like lots of units now coming forward. A bit of a fight happening in the middle of the map there. Attack move. Lots of units here. Starting to get
and
quite...
villagers being used to fight again by Raphael. He has to win this fight decisively if he wants to be able to win the game. If he can win this fight, despite losing all the villagers, he can push back on the Tabben's villagers and potentially get back into the game. But it's looking like a pretty even fight at the moment. Tabben's own vills coming in here to try and secure the win. And I think Tabben's going to take it. It's starting to swing slowly in his favor, with the help of the villagers. And well, that being said, more reinforcements coming in, more Raphael villagers coming in as well. So gonna be a very, very close fight, but just look at the economic unit population behind this. Yeah, even if Raphael wins this fight, he's significantly further behind in vills. Is that 20 now instead of 10?
Yeah, it's he's 20 vills up, and Eco Theory coming in on top of this. Lots of Strelets here. Looks like LordRaphael is going to come out ahead on this fight, but sacking all of the vills into this fight here. Lost 30 vills this game. Tabben lost 16, and only those 16 being lost in this final fight that we were just witnessed. But LordRaphael, he's got the army. He's got 46 military units.
That being said, he won that fight actually pretty hard now, and now Tabben has no food income. He's got a handful of villagers on the hunts over here.
And Tabben has resigned!
He's resigned. He's actually not able to train any more units because he doesn't have any more food, so Raphael actually wins the game, and there we go. The villager deficit ends up not being a super big issue when you end up not having anything to gather from.
Yeah, I mean, look at all of these military. There's 41 military units compared to 2, and as a result of that, wherever LordRaphael goes, he can control this food. These villagers frantically trying to throw down a blockhouse, but they just can't train any units. They can't gather any food. They've run out of food. So just going to build these here, but he knows even if the blockhouses go up, these red units, they're going to come in, they're going to destroy the 2 blockhouses, and that will be the end of that. But yeah, he can just stand on top of the food, gather it up with his 25 vills, and these 44 will be meaningless, right? And the only other hunt is the rear on the other side of the map, which LordRaphael nor Tabben has gone to. Tabben, I'd like to have seen perhaps a saloon, maybe, when there's only gold left, or maybe he could be on this hunt as well, but just slamming all the vills in there. LordRaphael gonna come out ahead on top, and that's what matters. LordRaphael gonna have the military advantage.
I wonder if Tabben really even needed to push at the end there, right? Like, he had the villager lead. Like, maybe he just felt like he
Quite
was
good
further
for
behind than he
Tabben,
actually
but there are two.
was. In fact, he
Been
wasn't
quite good
behind,
for
but he felt like he
Tabben, but
was.
there are
He
two
clearly
flavors,
felt
and
like
there's a
he was because
Tabben in
he
Hewitt
felt
each,
like he
so
had to
could
push
see
into
a
that
big
position
Cossack
with the really
batch.
awkward positioning
But
on his
I'm not sure how
Cossacks, not being
helpful
able to
that
get
will
in the
be,
fight in the
given there are so
blockhouse,
many
being there
musketeers.
and everything. But if he had just waited, sort of leveraged those extra 10 villagers, sort of defended his villas while he transitioned to mills and plantations, maybe he would have been in a much better situation. But maybe overreacting just a little bit with that push at the end.
Yeah, perhaps he could have stayed back and the game wouldn't have been over. That was... What a series. LordRaphael does... there is not a fifth button, as I've said before, but LordRaphael going to come out 5-3 in this series. Raphael picking up the victory. This is Raphael's first game, or first competitive showing back since the Autumn Championship 2018. He's basically not been playing since, has now come back. He's been playing a little bit recently before this series, but this is his first showing and still on form. Has managed to deal with Tabben here and comes out 5-3 overall. I was really hoping to see this evened up to 4-4. Not that I'm biased, but going all the way to Game 9 would be absolutely incredible. But yes, up next you can see would be Florida, but not going to be the case. It is that LordRaphael will win, and that will be that. Congratulations, LordRaphael. But ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere, because coming up next, we have two things. Firstly, or perhaps three things actually. We will be going over the highlights of this series. We've been clipping all of the best moments, and we're going to watch them over on the couch. So one of my colleagues will turn on the lights on the couch and get that all ready. But we will do that. We'll announce the betting. The winner, which was probably going to be Vividly Plain. I don't know, though. We will find out shortly, and maybe we'll see who was winning at earlier spots. Certainly a lot of points lost on that previous game, the one before this one, where Tabben came out on top. I'd like to know who was winning at that point. Perhaps Zach or Robo have insights on that. But also, after this, me and Maito are going to play each other. And not because we're just going to play each other. There's a reason. We're competing in the New World Championships. I signed up. I mean, I never really thought I'd get to the land stage, so it would be fine for me to sign up. But Maito, very much likely to get to the land stage, and I just happened to be his first opponent. So this is going to be a really, really interesting series because of our perhaps caster duo dynamic. But Maito, I'm hoping I can take a game off you. That would be... If I can do that, if I can win one game against you, that will be a victory in my opinion. And I don't care if you push me into the lower bracket, but I am... we'll see. No.
Nah,
Okay.
Not going to let it happen.
Yeah. Okay, Maito looking for the 3-0. But that's coming up after the highlight reel. So we're going to... Maito at the LAN. I expect to see him at the LAN, Yumiyu, right? Well, either way, he will be casting. But if he is a player, I suppose he won't be casting when he's playing. But we're going to see Maito for sure, as well as H2O, aka Ryan Mankel, and of course Wicked Cossack as well. All of those people have confirmed that they will come and will cast. So do book tickets to the New World Championships. If you enjoyed today, lots more Age of Empires 3 action coming in July. And if you want to be a part of it in the studio, by all means, do come. Message in our Discord for more information. And you can book your flights now if anyone is wondering. But I'm going to head on out of this game, and I'm going to head on over to the couch very shortly. So stay tuned, everybody, because we do have the highlight reel coming up next.
All right, adios.
hello everybody. And
There we are.
I love all the smoke. It's super unnecessary, but let's show it again. It is super unnecessary, but it is brilliant. Look
It
at
just makes it feel like it's a proper stage production, like where there's just some mystery going on and some other special effects in the background.
Okay, I do get your point. I do
Right.
get your point, but it is like it's just us in here, right?
Yeah, it's pressing buttons on
like-
the little remote.
We might next time we'll have disco lights playing. We're like really indulging
we
ourselves.
could turn the disco lights on.
We do well.
We've got them up there.
Yeah, that's true. We could do that. But imagine, I'm just looking forward to like having the speakers, the lights, the smoke for the actual LAN phase of the event. But hello everybody and welcome to the couch. We're going to go over the highlights. I'm joined by Robo, who has been busy with Ham and Zach in the office, clipping all sorts of clips,
making sure the stream's running.
all of that stuff. How many clips do we have?
Let's see. We've got about 3 or 4 per game.
Here we go. This is the first one.
Okay, straight into the first one. Game number 1, German Mirror on Kamchatka. This one is basically just Tabben taking a really bad fight in LordRaphael's base, throwing away some of his Ulans right at the start, and just sort of putting himself right behind. Like, you see the military count. It's 16-4 population right now.
And sometimes that happens, right? Because these units are so explosive, because they've got such high attack and such low hit points, if one gets snared, like the swing in HP is so much more than, say, on a Hussar. And sometimes you might accidentally get snared and then you have to take the fight and it's just not ideal, but not great there in that first game for Tabben.
That wasn't like a snare situation. He just sort of went into his base.
Yeah.
And then things went badly.
Oh, that clip there, I think the previous one we saw crossbows getting spanked,
right.
but
here we see the double soldiers coming forwards,
and
pushing Tabben back.
That was really nice from LordRaphael, adding in the dops there. It makes it, catching up in terms of Ulans, but the doppels have so much damage, especially against Ulans, and just losing a few dops here and there to a swing from a doppelsodner, and the Minutemen having to be called and just really coming out ahead in that fight. And I think that's sort of what won it for LordRaphael.
Right, yeah. I don't think Tabben was really prepared or expecting it really to happen, to see those units coming out that quickly in the game, and then we saw he just starts getting pushed back there.
And he had no intel on the barracks, right? He hadn't scouted that. He didn't know dops were coming. Probably expected his opponent to just age up behind it, but...
Right, just because that's the normal German semi-FF, right?
Yeah,
you make a couple of cab, you do some raiding, and then you go up.
That's right, but you can stay colonial for extended period of time, and that's what LordRaphael did, and it picked him up the game.
Yep, and then in the next clip, we're going to see Tabben sort of pushing back a little bit. We sort of saw this a little bit a moment ago.
We saw
the crossbows pop out, push him back.
Yeah, so he after all that fighting got cleaned up here, we saw a nice doppel pop right on top of the correct units there. Just going to swing the swords at the longbowmen, the doppelsodners, longbowmen, I mean crossbowmen. The doppelsodners' weakness is getting into combat, right? But they arrived in combat.
Yep, they were already there.
They managed to clean that up. Is there more from game 1?
There's one more.
Because he managed to clean up the fight here.
Yeah, here we go. He's going back. He's trying to do some counter raiding, trying to pick off some settler wagons, get some vills. He gets a few, but the problem is LordRaphael's doing the exact same thing in his base at this moment.
Yeah.
We're about to switch over there. And oh boy, you see there's 3 or 4 dead vills there on the coin mine, and just Tabben just instantly taps out. Yeah,
and you can see, I think the most important thing in this clip here is that LordRaphael is up to the Fortress Age, and just Tabben is not. Right. And he lost some vills there, and it just means he just can't catch up, right? He doesn't have as much vills, he doesn't have the tech advantage, and he's just not feeling good about it.
And yeah, that sums it up perfectly. Straight into game number 2, we've got Sioux versus Japan on Baja, California.
Oh, I love Baja.
Oh boy.
Okay, this was a great game, wasn't it? This was
I loved this just sort of like early game banter.
Yeah.
Where it's like walling like a big pro.
It's really, I think Maite said it as well, but the person LordRaphael lost to was Kanisi and he came, ended up coming third in that tournament instead of where he usually sort of ends up in the finals. But he lost to this wall style, and it really is quite frustrating. LordRaphael really doesn't like playing against walls. It really makes him angry, and I think Tabben like taking some leaves out of Kanisi's books and doing it the Kanisi way.
Yeah. Well, he did that pretty well to begin with. And then we're going to see him trying to make a little bit of a push from behind his walls with his army.
Yeah. Oh,
and this is kind of unfortunate.
This was tragic, right? He comes out, he thinks, right, my opponent must be aging because I haven't seen any units from him all game.
Right.
And then suddenly...
he gets out here and there's this cavalry just appears out of nowhere and surrounds his army.
That was surely his thoughts, right? There's no units, he's aging. But just sort of comes out and there are units. And this was really risky from him and ends up sort of just losing this sort of archer mass here. He's trying to retreat back to safety behind the gates there. Gets a few units to safety, but lost, a considerable number essentially for free.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the chat were saying, why is he doing this? Like, He's got his army. He's safe behind his walls. He doesn't need to push out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Into the next one. This is going to be the final clip for the game. And this is basically just, he's got up to the next stage. He's got a huge economy going with his shrines. He's got some fishing ships as well. So many more villages. And now he just gets this huge raid here against these villas, out hunting far away from home. LordRaphael tries to come in and fight a little bit in the north there, but there's just not enough military, not enough villages. He just can't support.
Yeah, Japan do
Continuing
this
the game.
so well. They have such, like, you can be on top of them all game long, but their shrines just out on the map generating so many resources if you sort of don't deal with them. And absolutely solid, just comes in, ignores those military buildings and races towards the villages which he could see were hunting there, finds a big pick and manages to sort of take out a lot of villages. And then these reinforcing units come in, and LordRaphael knows that those axe riders are not long for this world anymore, and Tabben picks up that game there. And that makes this, you know, when the series goes to 1-1 at the very start,
Right.
I'm always like, this is a close series.
Everybody's super excited. Like, oh man, are we going to go see like the 5-4?
Yeah,
We're going to get
like,
all the way there.
That's such the big marker. If you go 2-0, you have a big confidence boost. The other guy's probably not feeling like at that point. 1-1 is amazing, and Tabben got that, pilled that victory in.
Yeah, he played really well in that game. A little bit of unorthodox strategy, maybe with all the walls, but it paid off against LordRaphael. Game number 3, we've got Brits versus Spain on New England. Both players sort of going for the forward towers.
He was in such a... This is not how I'd have played Spain. I've played thousands of games as Spain. It's probably one of my top civs. And my style would have been to have that forward outpost, but ship something like 8 pikes in transition and age up with something like 8 pikes or 4 hussars and send cannons. But here he elects to go with sort of this very passive style. Sends 5 villages. He ends up adding in a second trading post and builds a market and all of these things, and sort of just, you know, he got so much damage on that early outpost, right? Did so much damage to it.
Like 50% HP.
Has his aggressive outpost, and sort of doesn't follow up with the aggressive style that I would sort of like to see against Brits, where you can sort of hit them early and hit them hard. But Tabben, I think he's, you know, a player that prefers a more macro-y style, so it's tempting to always go with villages and not commit all into something aggressive.
Play into the Spain playstyle though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it can work if you go for like advanced trading posts, but especially against British.
Yeah, British, they're such a macro.
Yeah, you are right. You want to be like, being aggressive seems to work well against Brits, but Tabben electing not to do that. This next clip, lots of lancers. I was expecting the lancers to perform well, but the hussars came in on the top.
I was really surprised how this fight ended up going, but just all those little dogs that he's trained.
Yeah, they're sort of
they do so much damage without you really noticing.
Yeah, they're not red or blue, are they?
Right.
They just, you sort of don't look at them because they're not on a team, or they are on a team. Their collars are blue, and they've got like 17 hand attacks, so they're like mini hussars, just sort of doing damage. And they don't have a unit classification, so they're not weak. Well, they do. They're called pets, but they're not really counted by anything like cavalry would be, right? And yeah, the dogs, you know, perform quite well there.
Right, and then we just saw right at the end there the 2 caravel shipment taking control of the pond, taking out the 1 caravel that Tabben aged up with, which is really quite key, I think, to keeping the game going, because Tabben couldn't go anywhere near the pond throughout the game because it was just so dangerous.
Having 2 caravels in the pond is
so... This is just...
Yeah, this is the game-deciding moment. Like, those cannons are supposed to make British pay, but they sort of come in a bit prematurely. There's not enough stuff to protect them, and the hussars just sort of knock them over.
Right, yeah, like as you were saying, you expect to ship like 8 pikes or something to defend it.
Yeah.
Whereas in that case, all they had was like 5 or so muskets and his explorer.
It's just so much eco stuff earlier. Just didn't have the military to go for such early falcons. You need a big mass or something to protect them with at least before they come out. And really, LordRaphael just picks up sort of 2 free falcons, and that decides the game, really.
Yeah. And then there's just the one final fight at the end of the game where Tabben just throws all of his stuff in.
Gonna play it out here, but you know, it's just hard. You've just got a few skirms in there, but...
Like his reinforcements are getting picked off by the caravels, so they can't actually get in there to join the fight. So he's minus 10 pop in that fight.
And the Huss rock up, they get into the combat, and they're just on top of the skirms. And there's just so much British red stuff here, right? They are not red coats, but they are wearing red coats. The red coats just end up winning the game. There's so much British army. And yeah, that takes game number 3.
Yep, 2-1 to LordRaphael at this point. Now we're going into Thar Desert. We've seen some pretty exciting games in some of the previous show matches and games that we've seen where it's really aggressive.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a little bit of a questionable play, maybe. He's sort of going all the way into the TC with all of his army, trying to pick off as many vills as possible.
Yeah.
And he sort of loses quite a lot in the process.
I think the idea here is that just India have a matchup advantage. here because of their access to goons and skirms in the colonial age, which Russia find it really hard to deal with. So he knows to win, he has to do a lot of damage really early. He has to kill a lot of villagers. So he knows before he's like even clicked in that he's just going to rush in here with these first batches of units and just waltz down everything he can, mow down villages. But it just wasn't as effective as he was hoping for. You know, he only killed 2, right? And he just sacked all of he knew he had to kill villages. He went in there with that mission and just ended up blowing all the units on, not really a lot.
And then there's going to be another big fight here, where they've got these massive colonial armies. And really, you just see them both trying to micro around, get into the good positions. And there's not really much else to say, really. It's just huge masses of musket balls and whatever the Strelets fire.
Yeah, but you can see there's a lot of there's a lot of Zambarak, there's a lot of Gurkha in there, which just have exceptional damage against whatever it is they're supposed to counter. Zambarak's very mobile, so they can move around and sort of be on the correct side to deal with the Cossacks. And these ranged, it's just not ideal, right? You're fighting such techie units. Although they're not veteran, they've not got those upgrades, they're still superior in what their style is. India just have access to these, really powerful units. And Russia here, you can see, you may have had, I think actually, I'm not sure how many resources worth of units are there, but it may have even been more in terms of actual resources worth of army. But when you're dealing with those such difficult units to counter, India comes out on top.
Oh yeah, the hard counter system is really, really prevalent, I think, in AoE 3.
Yeah,
so many units have a 2 times bonus or something crazy.
It's like playing rock, paper, scissors, but 1,000 times with every unit.
Yeah. Every time you make a unit, you got to think, is this my rock or is this my paper or my scissors?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
The fights are like that, right? You've got to play 1,000 games of that.
And then this fight sort of just continues on a little moment later.
Yeah.
And Tabben's just sort of, I think he's given up. He's recognized that the game's probably over and he's just throwing in what he's got left.
Yeah.
Both for
and
throwing in the towel.
That's the decisive blow, isn't it? LordRaphael picks up this game. And this is where he really pulls ahead in the series. 2-1, that's fine. Maybe Tabben can bring it back to 2-2. And those games that go, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, 2-3, like that. But, this is a decisive moment for LordRaphael. He pulls ahead to 4-2, and, 3-2, 3-1.
3-1.
Yeah, we got there in the end.
We got there.
And I think he's, at that point, feeling good. Seems good in the chat.
Yep. Game number 5, we've got Deccan, Iroquois versus India.
Oh, that was a game.
Oh boy, this was a very exciting game.
Yep.
And this is kind of interesting. He gets in here. There was a little bit of a fight before this, and he's really just harassing LordRaphael's villagers, denying him from going up to the Fortress Age as quickly as he wants to at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, he was quite greedy. He built that extra trading post. He's currently got 2 TPs. If he hadn't collected an extra 200 wood for that trading post, he would have had a bit more coin and a bit more food, and he would have clicked up, even before these sepoy entered his base. But it's really nice from Tabben to be able to stop the age up. I don't think he knew that he did, but he would have recognized it when LordRaphael gets up late, but just not able to gather that coin. There's a coin crate on the floor, and he just can't get it because there are sepoy standing there.
And that's basically what he needed to click up. And he just couldn't quite get it.
Couldn't quite get there, and that, I'm sure, will have a bearing on the next clip here.
Yep. Next clip. Here we are. He's just hit Fortress Age. He's got a shipment in, and Tabben's just going all out with all of his army trying to take down what military units Raphael has. Yeah,
and I really like how he's sort of in the base once he's up, because don't let them get a big mass of musket riders and skirmishes. Once that gets big, it's sort of harder to deal with. So here, just in the base, trying to deal with the shipments as and when they arrive, as they sort of pop out one at a time, and as I think Maito kept saying in this game, he's got behind this an insane economy.
Right,
and
we can see that he's 15 villages ahead essentially.
Yeah, so these fights might not be going too well for him because he's fighting under a town center, his opponent's base, where units are going to be reinforcing.
And his opponent has more units and better units to begin with.
But he does have this really big economy, and Tabben, I think, although not perhaps the best played India game, did come out on top, and it was...
and especially it just sort of kept Raphael's army in his base. He couldn't come across and try to do any raiding. And we're going to see another big fight coming up here. And this is when Raphael's starting to push out, but by this time, Tabben's had enough time to mass his army up again, and now he gets to take a fight on somewhat favourable terms near his own fort instead of Raphael's TC. Yeah, there's a few red units I didn't notice sieging the Agra fort, which probably wasn't ideal, but those veteran cuirassiers, that shipment there that cost 500 gold, wasn't quite as effective as I thought, but once they go down, there's no front line anymore, and then these cav can sort of run forward and deal with those skirms, and just coming out on top. Yeah. Oh, and the tiger claws. This is where I'd really have liked to seen those calves sort of follow the tiger claws onwards, and he could have really killed all of those forest prowlers, but they don't follow on, only the tiger claws follow. But still a strong fight. And there's just going to be the end of this fight, essentially, where the army's just cleaning up as they go into Raphael's base, and he can't really do anything to stop this massive units and the huge economy behind it.
Yeah, just funneling these units in. He's just throwing them in. Just rally them in there and leave them to it. It's pretty much...
Yeah,
no, it's not
exactly.
that, but it feels
That's
like
essentially what's going to happen from this point on.
Yeah.
Right, he can't mine the coin. He doesn't really have a lot of hunts in his base. He's got basically no military at this point.
Yeah. God, I'm not sure if you know the answer, but the betting was always, I think, slightly Raphael favored, except for one game. But
Yes.
I think it's the next game where people lose a lot. It was the
next game is High Plains.
right.
France vs Germany. I think the big one that people were betting on Tabben was Fertile Crescent.
Right.
But we'll go straight into High Plains. And this is just beautiful play. Excellent control by Raphael here, trying to get the trap in here.
Yeah, he's still got it right. Forces them into a corner. These Uhlans aren't going to escape.
Right.
It's not like some... And you could see the Hussars waiting down there as well in case they'd gone back the other way. Like, he's just exactly in all the places to force a snare. It does mean right now that not all the units are in the fight, but he does come out on top. Those pikes just so strong here.
He loses, 1 or 2 units for free here and there, but then once the big fight starts to happen, he comes out so far ahead thanks to those pikemen getting in
I
there.
just love how he was, even as he was, I didn't see this clip, but in the game I remember him chasing him up and had units on like these two sides to force, like if a direction change happened, it would just almost guarantee a snare. But yeah, Tabben just sort of being forced into a fight there that he probably did, well, he clearly didn't want to take.
Of course, he was trying to run away from it.
Yeah, but Raphael...
just both sides, he forced him to take it. He couldn't do anything else.
Yeah, and picks up quite a few kills there.
Gets a nice
and
military
gets a
lead there.
A good advantage.
Into the next clip. And this is basically just the GG moment where Tabben's trying madly to defend against all of this stuff that's come into his base. There's units everywhere. His villages aren't working. He's losing military. He's behind at this point, even though he's got his TC fighting. And
I think that's just the result of having lost all those Uhlans previously, right?
Yeah, he was just so far behind in military, there was nothing he could really do.
Yeah, and
to keep it
LordRaphael,
going.
That's where he really is now getting ahead, isn't it? What is the score at that point?
The score at this point is 4-2.
Yeah, so
Match point. Any game that Raphael wins, he wins, basically.
Yeah.
So into Fertile Crescent, we've got Sioux versus French. There really wasn't a lot happening in the early game.
Yeah,
They basically just both did a semi-FF and didn't use their military units at all. This is the first real fight in the game.
Yeah, I love how passive... Well, I mean, in the early game, he was being very careful, right? He had those outposts on the villas, and I think France doesn't want to leave the base just because he needs to keep his villas safe, and just he knows he's got a strong economy. He went for steel traps and amalgamation, and here, the only fight he's taking is this one, where the units have just walked into his base. He's not looking for fights himself. He's just playing this defensive game, and I really like that safe play from Tabben. It worked out so well for him.
And basically, if they're fighting in your base, you generally have a slight advantage, because, when you get a unit pop, your units are right there ready to fight, whereas theirs have to walk halfway across the map.
Yeah, your reinforcement time is much sooner. You're absolutely right. And you're closer to all your villas. You can defend them all.
And, and as the French, you can get your CBDs in there to join you in the fight.
That's true. They have really high hit points. But what's up next on the clip?
We're going to see an excellent engagement here. We've seen the Falcons get shipped in. He's coming forwards. He's trying to, I guess, posture a little bit outside the front of Raphael's base.
Yeah.
Try to, force a fight maybe, get some nice cannon shots off.
Yeah. So at this point, he's got his 2 Falcons, and now he wants to start using them.
And he's going to be in this perfect position here, right? It's all just set up so nicely that Raphael can't get to the Falcons easily. He throws away so much army trying to pick them off. Yeah, and takes so much damage on the Maquinas at the back.
That's right. You see all these Dragoons and Skirms firing whilst those cannons are being focused down. Does lose us the cannons, but they have 75% range resist. They're really good at sponging damage here. And you can see how decisively he comes out in the lead there. Doesn't want to commit to his using the Dragoons. Just ends up using the Skirms all game long.
This is something that Maito kept saying a lot.
Yeah.
That, he's in such a good position. He just needs to get in there with the Dragoons and finish off the army.
Yeah, he knows
really
there's no more
the fight.
cav coming, right? Because that big button, the dog soldier big button was used up. By the way, that tech, for anyone wondering, maybe you, Robo, every 3 minutes of the game, you get a dog soldier. So at sort of 16 minutes, it becomes quite... Yeah, but then the next timing is when the next one would come, and 3 minutes later. It maxes out at 30 minutes, but it's sort of something people really start considering 15,
and
18 minutes.
Super tanky guys. They get 750 HP, something like that.
They're very powerful, and a bit of area damage and multipliers against. Do they have area damage? Either way, they got certainly multipliers, and they're very strong, right? So he was that was he knew that was used up, so to speak. There was no more cavalry coming. So could have just rammed the
massive. They're just they're normal batches.
Could just ram the dragoons in there safely and kill down the skirms.
Yep.
But this is moving on to the next clip here.
Where they're sort of just like both doing raid trades, as it were. We've got here Raphael in the south, and Tabben's like, I'm too far away. I can't get down there to prevent that. I'm just going to go north and, raid you back, essentially. And it's sort of evenish trades for both sides. Tabben threw away a couple of skirmishes there underneath the outpost. But in the north, he's denying the coin. He takes down the trading post, I believe, after the war hut.
Yeah, that trading post does go down, doesn't it? But
Yep.
this is the first time in the game, really, where the players' armies are on sort of total opposite sides of the map. And up here, destroying the war hut. They're both trading away, as you're saying, and both sort of killing villagers as well up there. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. That's basically it. And then we'll get straight into the final clip, which is where all their armies come together and they just have this massive battle up here to decide who wins.
Except, that blue is further ahead. He's had more eco all game long, and now he's
got 40 more military pop.
And ranged infantry
villages.
Combat in there as well. Both players have cav combat as well. But, just so much extra stuff. And I think Raphael must know I'm getting further behind as this game goes in economy. I have to just take a fight. I have to come out on top of that fight. And if I don't, well, I've lost. But if I didn't take the fight, I would have slowly lost anyway. So he just sort of goes for it here. And you can see, gives it a good go and actually performs much better than I thought that he would. The red units actually did a lot more damage than I was expecting.
I think they had really nice positioning as well. Like, Tabben constantly having to walk through those trees there. His units aren't pathing correctly. They're getting to bad positions. But in the end, he's just got so many more numbers in this fight. Yeah,
that he comes out on top there. Also, those TPs are supplying some extra stats. But the pathing definitely relevant. But the thing that is important is that Tabben comes out on top here. And that is the fight that decides this game. And that's where Tabben sort of gets back into the series. He pulls it back from being 2 points down to being only 1 point down. Now 4-3. Obviously, LordRaphael still has that momentum of match point. But this is really Tabben catching up. And everyone's getting excited.
Well, everyone was thinking, oh, wow, Tabben could actually do this, right? He played that game so well. He did everything correctly. And we're going into a Russia mirror or Pampas Sierra, so there's no civ advantage either way.
This game, I think
this game is just insane.
And I think I think Raphael taking the mirror just because Russia is a civ, he's comfortable with.
But here we see, this is just all that happens the entire game. They just have massive militaries constantly just bashing away at each other.
Yeah, they didn't do a lot all game long, right?
It wasn't even like a semi-FF. It was just sort of stay at home, mass 40 units, and then run at each other.
Like you never want to... the reason they're just playing safe. It's a really important game. There's a lot of money on the line for this series, and like ultimately you don't want to take fights unless you know you can take them. Like a balanced fight isn't even something you want to take. So that's why they stay back, and because like all their units are quite even, like no one really ends up taking fights at all, and at some point they do sort of mash their units in there. Fight does happen, but you can see it's just all the units they've been massing all game long.
And you see Tabben's starting to creep ahead in military-wise. He's also got one extra Vil batch ahead of Raphael. He's possibly just decided to save the food. Or has he just maybe forgotten to queue one?
Maybe that. Maybe like in a big fight like this, you actually want reinforcing units so you don't queue Vils deliberately or something.
Yeah, just so you've got that extra food to spend on military.
Yeah, but
basically, we're just going to go straight through these clips back to back because they're all basically the same.
Yeah.
Just huge militaries fighting. We see this is actually quite nice because there's two cav shipments, well not shipments, like unit batches about to pop out of these stables.
Yeah.
And the Strelets are sort of a little bit exposed. They're a little far away from the muskets.
They are a little far forward, but ultimately he is able to sort of just rally them back into the musks, and it is okay. But yeah, that's big cav pop here, and still a lot of units from Russia, and they do end up doing reasonably well. The villagers, this is where the first time we start throwing them into the fight, and they're necessary to sort of sponge, and that's even more relevant here. You can see Raphael just rallying them in and just throwing them in there to deal with, to have extra HP mixed into his army.
And then at this point, they're sort of fighting over the last remaining hunts on the map. Like there's one you can sort of see in the top right corner of the screen. There's a couple of hunts there.
Oh god, this is so awkward. The cav are just finding it hard to get into combat. There's so little space here. And Tabben probably shouldn't have taken this fight. By the way, it was very laggy because of all of the shadows being processed on this weird hill and this like glow effect. But yeah, he just rams all his units in here. There's not enough space to get them all in properly. And sure, he has like this really big economic lead, but it's...
As you were mentioning in the game, he's got half of his economy basically gathering coin at this point because there's no food for him to gather.
Yeah.
And, stockpiling 1,000 coin doesn't really help you when you're making like strelets and muskets, which basically cost 0 coin.
I think though, imagine if he takes this fight, comes out ahead, he then has access to, I think there's a food hunt nearby and some coin here. So he's really fighting for that. Where's the remote? It's underneath the thing. Our telly's telling us it'll turn itself off if we don't press a button on the remote. But we've dealt with it now. But I'd really have liked to have seen him not like take the fight at all. If he'd stayed at home and just sort of defended, maybe started putting vills on wood. He killed 7 vills earlier from Raphael, right? Just like play the game out, play the long game, and then go for your mills and plantation sweeps and hope that your superior economy sort of comes out. Because
he also had a huge military lead for large portions of the game.
Yeah,
so if he had taken the defensive route, made the mills, and just defended himself, maybe he could have had a chance.
Or at least don't take this fight in this corner near a blockhouse and sort of where it's so awkward to get the calf. But it's hard to know these things in the game. Hindsight is a wonderful thing.
And having caster, having the full map vision, knowing how many villages your opponent has, what their economy is like.
But I think Tabben could well have won that. He was like ahead for most of the game, and he came out on top in the fight, and he killed 7 villagers in that big fight near the blockhouse / stable that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then it's just this final fight where he sort of threw it all away. But that could well have gone to the score of 4-4, and we may have seen that final game, but not the case. LordRaphael picks that up, and as a result does win himself the series 5-3 overall. But a pretty good series.
Really well played by both players.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching it, and I'm really pleased. God, I'm so. I said this last time, but it's just glorious to be able to come to work, to come to the studio on a Sunday and
get paid to watch Age of Empires.
To put on a show match.
Right?
It was absolutely
so cool.
that was really, really fun.
Okay.